Chapter 173. Shiyuejian. Lu Qing chewed on the name. He was no stranger to this name. As a good youth in the internet age, he had tried to search for his master's full name to learn more about him. However, the result was similar to that of Unparalleled Dragon King and Road to the Arena. Unique skills of the Ice Sect, and Shi could only identify Shiyuejian, a mighty one with physical invulnerability from Wuyue Club. Lu Qing strongly suspected that this was the daughter of Geezer Shi, his senior sister. However, he was not completely sure. After all, who knew if his master's surname was really Shi? Why did he have to be so mysterious? Lu Qing complained. However, when he remembered that Geezer Shi had a close relationship with the military, he felt relieved. Unparalleled Dragon King continued his analysis. Judging from Coach Shi's appearance and age, he should be a master in the beginning stage of professional competitions. There was no internet back then, and TV broadcasting was not developed. The remaining videos of his matches today are all famous battles. Anyway, I don't remember any mighty one like him. I even suspect that he didn't fight much in the challenge tournament. Are you saying that he grew up through life and death battles? Road to the Arena was obviously shocked. It's just a suspicion. However, in the era of professional competitions and title matches, when many areas were in turmoil, it's not strange for him to take the path of life and death battles. Unparalleled Dragon King explained. Reading this, Lu Qing suddenly remembered something Geezer Shi had once said. Before he reached the physical invulnerability stage, he had taken an adventure in the war-torn zones and killed a strong enemy with the Thunder Roar Zen. This was very consistent with Unparalleled Dragon King's inference. Lu Qing scrolled down, but there was no more information. He exited the forum and talked to Yin Zheka about this matter while waiting for dinner. The next morning, by the Weishui Lake. In high spirits, Lu Qing came to the usual place and practiced the yin-yang stance one by one according to the usual order. However, compared to the past, he reduced the number of times he practiced the 24 blizzard strikes and other martial arts that he had long mastered, so as to spare more time to further master the Thunder Roar Zen, and repeatedly ponder the essence of the visualization diagram. The ice field was boundless, the snow was boundless, and the cold wind was howling. It was bone-chilling. Lu Qing studied the visualization diagram a few times. He closed his eyes and concentrated his spirit in qi. Once again, he sketched the image of the cold and frozen land in his mind. He combined it with the feeling of winter he had experienced in the past to make the image as realistic as possible. How cold was it? It was cold to wear a cotton sweater, a thick sweater, and a down jacket. How piercing was the wind? It was bone-piercing, as if it was a knife. Thoughts flashed through his mind, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't combine his daily experience with the images he visualized. Gradually, those thoughts rose and fell one after another, gradually becoming chaotic. He could no longer control his mind, and had no choice but to withdraw from the concealment state. You're too impatient today. Geezer Shi chuckled. Yeah. Lu Qing exhaled and responded in a low voice. He had also noticed his own problem just now. He was too impatient and not relaxed enough. It was obviously something difficult to get started with. He should have been in a leisurely mood, quietly comprehending it, and not in a hurry for success. However, he always wanted to achieve it in one go, so it was counterproductive. As for why he suddenly became impatient, it was because of the inexplicable pressure in his heart. Ku's mother was coming. Mother-in-law was coming. After setting a goal for his college career at Tiantong Taoist Temple, his path was clear and he had more motivation to work hard. However, since there were still 3.5 years to go, the urgency and pressure weren't that serious. But now suddenly the Empress Dowager was coming. Even if he didn't have to face it himself, the goal seemed to be in front of him all of a sudden. It was clear that he could reach out and touch it, constantly reminding himself. Therefore, it was inevitable that he wanted to prove something, which added to his impatience. Huff. He breathed in the fresh air and calmed his mind. He didn't panic and re-entered the state of meditation. How can I grasp the essence and charm of the visualization diagram? Can I only rely on observation and experience every day and accumulate it bit by bit? I wonder if using a natural environment similar to the visualization diagram can speed up the process of grasping it. However, Only a one-in-a-million genius or mighty ones with extremely deep accumulation can comprehend nature. Can I do it? Even if I can, I don't have the time. Where can I find the time and money to go to the North Pole or the South Pole? Can I simplify it and go to places like the Ice Paradise or the Alpine Ski Resort? All kinds of ideas flashed in Lu Cheng's mind. He pondered whether using nature to assist his visualization would work, and at the same time, he considered a suitable location. Considering my status as a student, and the fact that my personal savings have plummeted after the date gift, this method doesn't seem realistic. At this moment, Lu Cheng's eyes flashed. He thought of something. He thought of something that could replace the natural environment for his comprehension. Why am I so stupid? He scolded himself in his mind. If there was a ready-made sense of ice to assist him, why would he ask for external help? The Jindan in his body is half fire and half ice. I can totally calm my spirit and comprehend the ice in the Jindan. Suddenly, Lu Cheng was enlightened. He felt that everything in front of him had become clear and refreshing. This is definitely a little dangerous. But isn't my master right beside me? He put his thoughts into action. He calmed his excitement and concealed his spirit and chi again. This time, he didn't draw the frozen sky diagram. Instead, he slowly entered the state of inward vision, allowing the Jindan in his lower abdomen to enlarge inch by inch in front of his eyes. The ice crystals were like stars, translucent and dreamy. They slowly rotated around scorching flames of different colors, and reflected their light, making themselves resplendent and brilliant. Gradually, Lu Cheng seemed to be in a vast and boundless starry sky. He couldn't tell up from down, left from right, and couldn't see the ends of the world. He carefully approached a star, and enlarged it in front of his eyes, allowing the perfect crystal that was constantly refracting light to touch him. In an instant, Lu Cheng felt as if his spirit and body had been frozen. In front of him was a white, lifeless expanse of whiteness. In his ears was the whistling of the icy wind between heaven and earth. Around him was an extremely low temperature that froze the flames and movement. In just 2 or 3 seconds, his spirit was bounced back. He could only see the nebula in his lower abdomen expanding and contracting, dazzling and enchanting. The wonderful feeling just now was deeply engraved in his mind. At this time, Lu Cheng suddenly understood that if he could experience the visualization diagram a few more times, he should be able to grasp the indescribable essence and charm with the help of the feeling just now. He wanted to try immediately, but he was unusually sleepy. His spirit seemed to have become sluggish. The few seconds just now consumed a lot of energy. He had no choice but to open his eyes again and shake his head. If you're too tired, don't try in a hurry. Gezershur calmly looked at him and reminded him. Yes, master. Lu Cheng obeyed. He put away his stance and began to run circles around the lake to complete his morning training. I didn't expect the method of perceiving the Jindan to actually work. While running, he thought joyfully. He always felt that the conception of the Jindan contained many things that were worth exploring. It seemed to hide something that could only be understood. Looking at his back, Gezershur smiled slightly and said, Hey, how can you get started with the visualization diagram so quickly? But this little rascal finally has a moment of impatience. Otherwise, this old man would have thought that he was no longer a young man. After the special training on Sunday morning, Lu Cheng didn't leave the martial arts arena with Yenjika. Instead, he pulled Kai Zongming and followed the girl, and Guqing in front of him. Cheng, tell us the truth. What did you do wrong? After arriving at the old campus, they separated again, and took a long detour. They left the school through the small north gate, and took a bus to Songqing Ocean Aquarium. Looking at the magnificent entrance, Lu Cheng suddenly felt a little nervous. Because he didn't know the order of the tour was limited to what he found on the internet, and the introduction of marine life he had memorized was messy. If he wasn't familiar with the process, he would definitely forget a lot of it. He held Yenjika's hand and walked slowly to the ticket office. While chatting, he quickly recalled the content he had memorized. Starfish, after tearing, each piece could become a new starfish. Sea urchins, especially timid jellyfish, very beautiful but also very dangerous devilfish, looking like a bat in the sea, angelfish, with tassels swimming like a dance. Just as he was about to finish a part of his memory, Yenjika's phone suddenly rang. She looked at it and quickly made a shoe gesture to Lu Cheng. "Mom," she shouted crisply. A mature female voice came from the other side of the phone. "Cool, you're not in the dormitory?" Hearing Yenjika's address, Lu Cheng felt nervous and disappointed. Well, no need to relive it. Chapter 174. Although Yenjika was prepared, she was still a little nervous. She hurriedly switched to her coquettish mode and said, "Yes, I'm shopping with Aching." "Mom, why are you asking me this?" "I'm in your dormitory." The mature female voice chuckled. "I wanted to give our little princess a surprise, but I didn't find you. You're in my dormitory." Yenjika felt that her acting skills had improved in the past 2 days. Her surprised tone was flawless. "You know your mom's character. I'll do whatever I want. What's so strange about that? I'm in Qingyang for a business deal, so I came to see you on the way." "Haha, your roommates are so polite." The mature female voice laughed. "Cool, where are you? I'll come to you directly." Qingyang was the provincial capital of a nearby province. It was only 2 hours away from Songcheng by train. "Come here directly?" "Mom, you don't play by the rules." Yenjika was shocked. She hurriedly said, "Mom, it's okay. You wait in the dormitory. I'll be right back." The mature female voice said in an understanding tone, "You promised to go shopping with others, but you're leaving them alone. Isn't it bad? I'll come over and treat your classmates to a meal." Yenjika couldn't help glancing at Lu Cheng. Although it was bad to leave him alone, it was even worse that her mom treated him to a meal. She was quick-witted and sold out Li Liantong. "Mom, didn't you say you would treat my roommates to a meal? This is a good opportunity. Aching has a classmate with her." "Well, that's good. Come back quickly." The mature female voice thought for a while and said, "Yes, Mom." Yenjika said cutely. She almost raised her hand to salute. After hanging up the phone, she exhaled. She felt that it was really a battle of wits and courage. Besides, lying was really troublesome. One lie had to be covered with a pile of lies. If it weren't for this idiot beside her, she wouldn't have bothered. "Then I'll take a taxi?" Lu Cheng calmed down and shook his phone with a smile. Yenjika touched her chest and said pitifully, "Go ahead. I need to relax. I was so nervous just now. I was so worried that my mom would insist on coming. If that was the case, where would Guoqing appear?" She was still taking an afternoon nap in the dormitory. Seeing the girl like this, Lu Cheng's heart softened. He completely forgot about the disappointment just now. He quickly chose an address and booked a car. Yenjika paused for a few seconds and glanced at her boyfriend, whose profile was becoming more and more distinct. She asked cautiously, "Cheng, are you disappointed? Are you a little unhappy?" Lu Cheng felt warm in his heart and said, "Of course, I was a little disappointed because I was looking forward to having a good afternoon with you in the aquarium. But when it comes to such a big event as your mother's arrival, everything else can only be put aside." Speaking of this, he held the girl's soft hand and smiled slightly. "Besides, we still have many weekends in the future. In the future, there will be plenty of opportunities to come here again and make up for this date. To be honest, I feel more sorry for you. You just came here and you have to rush back. If I had known, I would have endured and pushed this matter to next week. There will be many weekends in the future." Yenjika rolled her eyes, revealing her dimples. She said lightly, "Why are you blaming yourself? She's my mother, not yours." While they were talking, the online car arrived on time and sent them to the old campus of Songcheng University. Lu Cheng and Yenjika discussed and decided to take separate cars to avoid bumping into each other because they were worried that their mother-in-law would be waiting at the school bus station in the new campus. Yenjika found a seat by the window, holding her backpack and looking at her boyfriend waving outside. She unconsciously showed a smile on her face and slightly pursed her lips. She looked calm. When the school bus started to move, she took out her mobile phone and typed quickly. She sent a striving to be strong emoji and said, "Everything will be fine after this afternoon." Lu Cheng quickly replied with a snicker emoji. At that time, we can loudly sing, "The sky in the liberated area is bright and sunny." Yenjika couldn't help but laugh. like a flower in full bloom. The boy next to her almost couldn't move his eyes away. But she didn't pay attention to this at all. Her eyes were only focused on the phone screen. She sent a stunned emoji and said, "Wow, are you talking bad about my mother?" After replying to this message, she found that Li Liantong, Zhong Yanru and Shi Xiangyang had all sent her messages. Although the language was different, the content was basically the same. For example, "Come back quickly, I can't handle it alone. The Empress Dowager is full of aura. I'm trembling in fear. I dare not, I dare not. I dare not talk bad about my mother-in-law." Lu Cheng replied to Yenjika's message with a shocked emoji. "Bah, who's your mother-in-law?" Yenjika sent a curse emoji. Lu Cheng stood at the waiting area with a smile on his face. He held his mobile phone like an internet addict and kept typing on the screen keyboard. After a while, he felt something in his heart. With his sharp senses, he felt some kind of gaze. He turned his head abruptly and looked in the direction of the strange gaze. He saw a few girls looking at him, whispering to each other and laughing in a low voice. One of them seemed to be pointing the camera of her mobile phone at him. What's going on? Lu Cheng started to have second thoughts. When they noticed that he was looking at them, the girls immediately stopped talking and stood up straight, acting like they were just passers-by. When Lu Cheng turned his head and looked at the school bus that had arrived at the departure point, he heard the uncontrollable laughter from the other side. "What's wrong with my face? What's wrong with my dress?" He was puzzled. While boarding the school bus and finding a good seat, he used his mobile phone screen as a mirror to look at his face. However, he found nothing. When the school bus was full and was about to start, Lu Cheng suddenly thought of a possibility. He opened the browser and logged into the school forum. In the gossip section, he found a new post. "I seem to have met Lu Cheng from the martial arts club." He clicked in and immediately saw himself standing at the waiting area, chatting with a silly smile on his mobile phone. Phew. Lu Cheng exhaled and felt a little complacent. "I'm considered to be quite a celebrity in school." Because of Li Liantong's information, Yenjika was not surprised to see her mother waiting for her at the ticket office when she got off the school bus. Her mother wore her hair in a bun and light makeup. She wore a woman's white blouse, a black suit, and a pair of 5-centimeter high heels, which highlighted her capable and mature business style. Her eyes were similar to Yenjika's, but her features were not as delicate as her daughter's. Her eyebrows were too sharp, and her nose was not high enough. She looked more heroic and imposing. "Mom, why are you wearing this?" "I was thinking of dressing up like a sister and going around the campus." Yenjika smiled and walked up to her. She held her mother's hand and said coquettishly. Then she nodded to the tall woman next to her who was also dressed in a suit. "Hello, Aunt Lu. I feel that you are getting stronger and stronger." Aunt Lu was her mother's assistant and bodyguard. She was the daughter of her grandfather's eldest disciple, and had a cultivation of professional seventh pin of the dance stage. "Ku is getting better at talking." Lu Xiaolin replied with a smile. Ji Mingyu patted her daughter's hand affectionately and said, "I just finished a business deal and came here from Qinyang. How can I have time to change? Besides, I'm already so old. How can I dress up like a sister?" While talking, she looked at the students who were getting off the school bus. "Of course not, you look like you are in your early 30s with jeans, white sneakers, and a loose sweater," Yenjika said with a smile. She held her mother's hand and walked away. Then she snorted and said, "Mom, are you worried about me? So you came here to patrol?" She called yesterday to ask about her boyfriend and came here today. If she pretended not to think about it, she would feel guilty. Ji Mingyu let her daughter take her to the dormitory and laughed. "I'm worried about myself." "Huh." Yenjika looked at her mother blankly. What did she mean? "You've been like me since you were a child," Ji Mingyu said with a smile. "And I lied to your grandparents many times for your father. So I thought that if my Ku really likes a boy, she would be willing to lie to us for him. So I thought I might as well come and have a look. If there is such a boy, I should at least know what kind of person he is, right?" Yenjika felt guilty. Was it true that no one knew her daughter better than her mother? For a moment, she even wanted to tell the truth. But in the end, she decided to be cautious. She planned to take Chung to meet her parents when she was confident. I thought you came because you missed me, she said coquettishly and changed the topic. Ji Mingyu turned to look at her daughter and said with a smile, You look much better than you did during the spring festival. Of course. I train every day. My body is in good shape. Yenjika deliberately clenched her fists and bent her elbows to show her muscles. And I just participated in a challenge tournament last week. I did very well and defeated an opponent of amateur first pin. I didn't tell you before because I wanted to wait for the video to come out so you could see it immediately. After the edited video, there would be no flirting with each other. Ji Mingyu was a little surprised. Then you're going to participate in the next amateur ranking event. Which pin are you going to register for? Second pin. Yenjika answered proudly. Ji Mingyu nodded slightly and suggested, The special training of the martial arts club is very helpful for you. Since your cousin is here, why don't I treat all the members to a meal? We can also meet the boy who pretended to be your boyfriend the other day. Yenjika was so scared that her heart almost skipped a beat. She hurriedly said, Why do you want to meet him? It's so embarrassing. Empress Dowager is so troublesome. Chapter 175. Ji Mingyu smiled and said, What's there to be embarrassed about? It's not like I'm treating him alone. Since my daughter has troubled him, I'll go and thank him when I treat all the members of the special training group. Is that okay? No problem, no problem. This is a big problem. Yenjika felt a headache coming. She racked her brains and said, But we all have activities on the weekend. How can we get together so easily? Besides, Mom, aren't you going to treat my roommates to dinner? Yes, I'll treat your roommates tonight, and invite the members of the martial arts club tomorrow at noon. You'll have just finished your special training, so you can find them. Ji Mingyu looked at her daughter with a smile. Her plan was flawless. As for the accommodation, Songcheng was so big that they could find a good hotel. Yenjika was speechless for a moment. She felt that she was still too inexperienced in front of her mother. She restrained her panic, depression, and self-abandonment and looked up. Well, I'll mention it to them during the special training tomorrow. If she objected again, her mother would see through her. It was just a meal. What was there to be afraid of? She told Ah Qing, senior sister Lin, and the others to make Qing act as if nothing had happened. Everything should be fine. After she answered, Lu Xiaolin, who had been silent, suddenly said, Junior uncle, you have plans tomorrow. Qin Yang has to attend the signing ceremony. She was the daughter of Ji Mingyu's big brother, so she called Ji Mingyu junior uncle. However, they were only 5 years apart in age, and she was married to a family friend of the Yen family, so Yenjika had to call her aunt. Look at my bad memory. Ji Mingyu patted her forehead and said regretfully, I can't treat the members of the martial arts club to dinner. No need to feel sorry. Yenjika exhaled silently. Then she suddenly realized that if she kept finding excuses to stop this, it would most likely become a reality. She would never mention the signing ceremony. Mom, you're so cunning. You can wait until next time. Anyway, I haven't told them yet. Mom, since you're so concerned about my teammates in the martial arts club, do you know anything about our coach? She asked, changing the topic. Chung had always been curious about this. Ji Mingyu chuckled and said, I asked your grandfather, and he only replied with one sentence, an old guy. This old guy seems to be a master of physical invulnerability of the same generation as Grandpa. But Coach sure doesn't seem to have a good relationship with Grandpa. Yenjika thought to herself. She put the previous trick behind her and adjusted her mood. Then she took her mother and Aunt Lu to walk around the campus and chat. Back in the dormitory, Lu Qing put his phone aside and waited for Yenjika's good news. He didn't join Kai Zhongming and Zhao Chang in their game. Instead, he took out his textbook, calmed down, and started to review what he had learned before. The amount of knowledge in each class in university was 10 times more than in high school. It was common for students to finish dozens of pages of teaching materials in a single class. Just by listening in class and doing homework after class, students who were not gifted could only grasp the basic knowledge and pass the exam. Therefore, this placed a higher requirement on students' ability to study independently. If they didn't know how to read by themselves, consolidate their knowledge, spread their knowledge, and search for relevant materials by themselves, their grades would get worse and worse. Lu Cheng was busy with martial arts training. Classes filled up his afternoon and evening, and he only had time to study with Yen Zheke on weekends. He didn't have a good grasp of most of the knowledge. Now that he opened the book, he learned something new from every page. While he was engrossed in studying, the sky turned dark. Suddenly, his phone buzzed and vibrated strongly. A message from Ko? Lu Cheng was delighted, and put down the pen in his hand. But he didn't dare to hold too much hope, because similar situations had happened before. They were all spam messages or replies from Jiang Fei and Chinchili. He picked up his phone and saw the latest message on the screen without unlocking it. Yen Zheke sent a firecracker emoji. I've unlocked it. Mother-in-law's inspection is over? Lu Cheng felt relieved and beamed. He unlocked the screen and replied quickly. Then can I invite my little fairy to take a walk tonight? Yen Zheke stood at the bus stop and watched her mother and Auntie Lu leave the east gate on the bus. She had the urge to burst into tears. How tiring. But Mom left a little too easily, didn't she? She trusted me after probing a little? Or was it because she didn't have many doubts in the first place, and it was just along the way? In doubt and exhaustion, she took out her phone. When she saw the reply, a faint smile bloomed on her face again. She was relaxed and happy again. Okay, but let's wait for another hour. I'm afraid that Queen Mother will come back and catch us by surprise. My little fairy was scared by my mother-in-law. Seeing this message, Lu Cheng felt sorry for her and found it funny. Another hour is just right. I haven't had my dinner yet. The moon hung high above the willows. When it was dark, Lu Cheng waited for Yen Zheke to come out of the dormitory. He immediately went up to her and held her hand, their fingers intertwined tightly. Let's go for a walk by the lake? He suggested with a smile. There were too many people around. Yen Zheke rolled her eyes at him. Her eyes were shining like stars. She pursed her lips and said, You can't be naughty. In the middle of the night. That's how I lost my first kiss. Lu Cheng answered with a straight face. I promise I won't be naughty. How can being intimate with my girlfriend be naughty? Hand in hand, they strolled to the lake. Lu Cheng said with heartache. Were you tired in the afternoon? Was it very tiring to deal with Empress Dowager? Yes. Yen Zheke nodded exaggeratedly. I'm not bragging. If it were you, you would be exposed in 3 minutes. Haha, are you that good? Lu Cheng didn't believe her. Yen Zheke put her right hand in her pocket and counted with her fingers. Empress Dowager is experienced and experienced. Empress Dowager has been in the business world for many years. She has sharp eyes and a strong aura. Empress Dowager is very smart and has one trick after another. She gave birth to me and raised me, so she knows me very well. It's not easy for you. Lu Cheng felt that the girl's action was very cute, but at the same time, he pitied her hard work. Yen Zheke turned her face and looked at Lu Cheng with grievance. That's right. How are you going to comfort me? Lu Cheng stared at her delicate pink lips and said, A kiss? Humph, you're not comforting me. You're taking advantage of me. Yen Zheke said coquettishly. She turned her head and looked to the side. Then she said, Cheng, answer me honestly. Did you do a lot of preparation for the aquarium visit this afternoon? At this time they were walking further and further away. There was no one around except for the occasional street light. Not too much. Lu Cheng answered modestly. Yen Zheke turned around and looked at him with bright eyes. Can I have a look? Looking at the girl stretching out her hand, Lu Cheng couldn't resist. He handed his phone to her, unlocked the screen and opened the photo library. I just downloaded some pictures and made some notes. How about I set your fingerprint? You can turn on my phone at any time. You don't have to go through so much trouble. Aren't you afraid that I'll find out your secret? Yen Zheke looked at him with a faint smile. I have no secrets in front of you. Lu Cheng said corny words. Yen Zheke smiled and stopped. She looked down at the pictures Lu Cheng had downloaded. 111. She flipped through them for a long time. So many. She whispered to herself and looked up at Lu Cheng. There seemed to be ripples in her eyes. The girl quickly lowered her head again and opened the notebook. It was full of marine life-related notes. They were divided into categories and marked with key points. It was exactly the same as her review notes before the college entrance examination. Yenjuka didn't speak for a long time, and kept looking at the phone. Lu Chung said nervously, "I found them on the internet. It didn't take me much time." The girl's black hair hung down and covered half of her cheeks, but he could still see her sweet dimples. "I'm very happy." "A what?" Lu Chung was stunned and didn't hear clearly. Yenjuka looked up and snorted. "Forget it if you didn't hear it." Under the street light, her eyes were a little red. Lu Chung was not a fool. He understood her tone, and guessed that the girl was moved. He smiled and said, "I heard you say you wanted to kiss." "Bah. Shameless. Pervert." Yenjuka spat and looked to the side with a red face. But when Lu Chung grabbed her hand and pulled her toward him, she immediately fell down softly as if she had lost her bones. Lu Chung had no experience, but how to chase after beauty was ingrained in his instinct. At this moment, he completely forgot about the surrounding environment and the loss and tension during the day. After a long time, she pushed him away and struggled to get out. Her lips were red and watery with a hint of silver. Then, she buried her red face in his shoulder and gasped for air as she said, "Pervert, pervert, big pervert." Her right hand gently and continuously beat Lu Cheng's back. Lu Cheng seemed to have forgotten to breathe just now. Now he was gasping for air, and was in a good mood. He said in high spirits, "If that's the case, all husbands and boyfriends are big perverts. I'm proud of my perverted girlfriend." "Humph, I don't care. You're the #1 big pervert." Yenjuka answered shyly. Suddenly she asked in confusion, "What's bothering me?" Well. His mind was working quickly to find an excuse. Yenjuka felt her eyes were burning. She turned her head abruptly and said shyly and angrily, "Rogue! I won't play kisses with you anymore." Lu Cheng smiled awkwardly and held the girl in his arms again. He explained seriously, "If I didn't have such a reaction, you would be worried." "Humph, you're a big pervert anyway." Yenjuka did not struggle and answered indignantly. Lu Cheng recovered, and was no longer embarrassed. He held the girl in his arms, listened to her coquettishly, smelled her fragrance, and savored the sweetness in her mouth. He wished he could shout loudly to vent his joy. With the arrival of the Empress Dowager, the relationship between the two seemed to be closer in the following week. Lu Chung was able to successfully lure Yenjuka into a deep kiss from time to time. He was so happy every day. His cultivation became even more assiduous, and his state of mind was no longer impatient. He calmed down again. After comprehending the frost concept of the Jindan twice, he was only one step away from grasping the essence and charm of the visualization diagram. This was slower than he expected, but it was still within the normal range. In the blink of an eye, it was Saturday morning. After finishing his morning training, he accompanied Yenjuka and others to the Songqing Martial Arts Club. This was the first annual amateur ranking event. The Songqing Martial Arts Club was very large. It was divided into several halls, and surrounded by a circle of shops for the martial artists and spectators. "What should I do? I'm a little nervous." Yenjuka held Lu Cheng's hand and said pitifully. Lu Cheng comforted her. "Don't be afraid. The competitors of second pin are all fighters of amateur third pin. You have a big advantage." There was a cafe dozens of meters away from them. From its floor-to-ceiling window, they could see the entrance of the martial arts club. Beside the floor-to-ceiling window, Ji Mingyu in a black business suit was quietly watching the couple holding hands with a cup of coffee. Chapter 176. At the entrance of the Songqing Martial Arts Stadium, Lu Chung and the others bumped fists and parted ways. Guoqing had only practiced mountain-moving fists for a month, so she didn't dare to register for the amateur third pin competition with Lin Hua. Instead, Shi Li Xiaowen, Jiang Fuxing and Wu Meng went to the number 3 hall, where the ranking event of amateur fourth pin was held. Sun Jian and Li Mao set their sights on the amateur second pin, so they went to the number 2 hall with Yenjuka, who was a little riskier to register for the amateur second pin. Kai Zhongming didn't come this time. Lu Cheng picked up the foundation he had left behind, and didn't have any hope of improving his rank. Hall number 2 was about the same size as Songqing University's martial arts stadium. Most of the people coming and going were fighters and friends. There were no real audience. Even so, according to Lu Cheng's observation, there were at least thousands of people here. After waiting in line to get her group and match arrangement, Yenjika wrinkled her delicate nose and showed her sweet dimples. Not bad. Only 5 fighters. The number of fighters of amateur second pin had been announced on the official website. There were 439 fighters in Songqing. Usually, most fighters of amateur ranking event were of 9th pin and 8th pin. Most of the fighters in the hundreds of martial arts clubs and gyms in and around Songqing were aiming for these 2 ranks. For them, most of them had their own jobs or were still in middle school or high school, so the time they had to train was quite limited. If they didn't have any talent, they would spend their entire lives strengthening their bodies, maintaining their figure, and being proficient in martial arts. If they were able to obtain the 2 grades of entry, they would be able to brag about it to their friends and family. At critical moments, they could even use it to scare thieves and hooligans, like heroes protecting beauties. Because of this, the ranking event for these 2 ranks was not held in the Songqing Martial Arts Stadium. Instead, it was held in different areas of the county and some schools, so that the quota would be distributed to different people. Although there were a lot of fighters of amateur 8th pin, not many of them had the confidence to sign up for amateur 7th pin. The number of fighters started to drop sharply, from rank 7 to rank 4. It was very difficult for a martial artist who did not persevere in training or have some talent to stand out. The gym could no longer help students reach this level. Only the most elite students in every martial arts dojo had the ambition to make a breakthrough. Kai Zongming belonged to this category. He had some talent, but he did not put in enough effort. These 4 levels of competition were held in Hall 3 and Hall 4 respectively. Logically speaking, there should be fewer applicants for rank 4 and above. After all, only martial artists with a little talent who insisted on daily training were qualified to set their sights on this. In most of the martial arts dojos, they could already be listed as disciples. However, this was not the case in reality, because the martial artists who were initially distributed to various martial arts schools and were accepted as disciples by various sects and forces would participate from this stage onwards. Among them, the most outstanding few aimed to enter the dance stage and reach professional 8th pin. Those who could be considered outstanding would be professional 9th pin at the beginning. Those who were above average would aim for amateur 1st pin. Those who were below average would aim for amateur 2nd pin. Those who were not outstanding would at least aim for amateur 3rd pin. Every year, many students from several martial arts schools in Songqing participated in this event, and the number of applicants for the amateur 3rd pin had skyrocketed. However, they would not affect the local martial arts environment too much. Usually, after graduation, they would go where they wanted to go. Some would join the army, some would join the police force, some would become employees of the security companies affiliated with the major forces, and so on. The number of applicants for 439 amateur 2nd pin was slightly higher than in previous years, but it was still within a reasonable range. However, compared to the number of amateur 3rd pin fighters, it was still a small part. After all, after reaching amateur 3rd pin, some would age and their physical condition would begin to deteriorate. Some would be satisfied and stop pursuing further progress. Some would have their training time greatly reduced due to job changes or university graduation. It was not easy for them to maintain their original level. Some might feel that they were still lacking and wait for the future. The quota for the ranking event this time was 40 people of amateur 2nd pin, which was less than 10%. They were divided into 80 groups, with 5 or 6 people in each group. They would compete in a single cycle. If there were 2 people with the same record, they would compete against each other. If there were 3 people with the same record, they would start all over again. After the competition, the 80 fighters would draw lots to fight. The loser would be eliminated, and the winner would be determined as amateur 2nd pin. In other words, a fighter would have to fight at least 5 matches to be determined. Moreover, all the matches would be held on weekends, which was also a great test of physical strength. Lu Qing took the paper from his girlfriend's hand and read it carefully. He smiled and said, "Chun Jun from Songhua Martial Arts School." This was Yenjika's opponent this morning. After that, she would fight at 3 o'clock p.m., 7 o'clock p.m., and the next morning. If there was one, she could draw lots in the afternoon for the knockout match to determine her level. The knockout match didn't have to start after all the groups had fought. It could start as long as there were more than 20 groups. Chinjun was an amateur third-pin fighter. He hadn't participated in any preliminaries, and had only participated in some amateur challenge tournaments. It was difficult to find his fighting videos on the internet. However, after knowing that he was a disciple of Songhua Martial Arts School, Lu Qing could naturally find videos of his martial arts skills to give Yenjika a direct impression. Yenjika smiled while watching her boyfriend busy himself. She was also searching for videos. They leaned against the edge of the stands and whispered to each other, seizing the time to analyze the characteristics of those martial arts skills. Sun Jian and Li Mao, who could only study by themselves, were very envious. At 9 o'clock p.m., the group of friends and relatives retreated to the upper stands so that the organizer could better maintain order. The situation of the venue was similar to that of the Warrior Sage Challenge tournament. There were 4 standard arenas around the center. Lu Qing knew that his girlfriend's match would start at 10 o'clock p.m. Seeing her sitting down at the edge of the arena, he sent a smiley emoji and said, "Don't think too much. Let's continue to discuss your opponent's martial arts skills. But first, I'll buy you some fruits and energy drinks." He was quite confident in Yenjika's martial arts level since he had been her training partner every day. "Good, very careful. I'll give you a like," Yenjika said with a smirk. After exiting hall number 2, Lu Qing chatted with the girl, while he found a nearby fruit shop. He bought a lot of things and finally found a small supermarket to stock up on a few energy drinks. Even though it was a given that he valued his girlfriend over his friends, he couldn't be too obvious about it. He still had to prepare some for senior Sun Jian and the others. Carrying these things, Lu Qing walked back to the second hall with light steps. He chose a position where he could see Yenjika from the best angle. He saw that many men around her were secretly looking at her, but she was focused on replying to his messages without any distractions. Soon it was 10 o'clock p.m. Yenjika stood up and walked to the corresponding arena. Her beauty, figure, and temperament attracted enough attention. "Hee, such a good girl is mine." Lu Qing looked at this scene with a little complacency and happiness. At this moment, he saw 2 figures walking towards him from the corner of his eyes. One stopped not far away, and the other was still approaching. There was no hidden meaning in his words. Subconsciously, he sized him up. With this look, his heart suddenly thumped, and he had a bad premonition. It was a woman who looked less than 40 years old. Her hair was tied up in a bun. She had an elegant temperament and delicate facial features. She looked like she came from Jiangnan, but her eyebrows were relatively sharp, which made her look more heroic. But this was not the point. The point was that Lu Qing vaguely felt that she looked a little like his girlfriend. Could it be so coincidental? Didn't she already patrol? Didn't she go back long ago? While Lu Qing was guessing in panic, a mature woman in a black business suit stopped in front of him and smiled. "Are you Lu Qing?" Yes." Lu Qing told himself to calm down. Ji Mingyu smiled faintly and straightforwardly introduced herself. "Hello, I'm Ku's mother." There was a loud boom. Lu Qing felt that his brain was going to explode. "She is really the Empress Dowager. She really came back to kill me. And she came back after Ku and I thought everything was over." Calm down, calm down. She didn't catch Ku and me." Lu Qing took a deep breath and glanced at Yenjika, who was in the middle of the conversation. He hurriedly stood up and said with a smile, "Hello, Auntie. Judging from your reaction, you are indeed my Ku's boyfriend." Ji Mingyu chuckled. Lu Qing was dumbfounded. He finally understood why Yenjika said he would be exposed in 3 minutes in front of her mother. Am I acting too nervous? In fact, no matter how calm you look, I can be sure that I saw you and Ku come in hand, Ji Mingyu said with a smile. She sat next to Lu Qing and looked at her daughter in the arena. Lu Qing stayed there, not knowing whether to stand or sit. He was under a lot of pressure. She was so domineering. Is she here to ask me to break up with Ku? Should I learn from the TV series and say things like, "We are true love. Money will only insult me. Don't bully the poor." And life is full of ups and downs? Sit down. Ji Mingyu sighed slightly. To be honest, when I found that Ke kept lying to me for you, I wanted to tell you to get out of here as far as possible. But when I thought about my past, I was worse than you. So I calmed down and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Only when I become a mother can I understand my mother's feelings. While talking, she kept looking at Yenjika in the arena, and didn't turn her head. Lu Qing took a deep breath and sat down with the mentality that he would be stabbed no matter what. He said seriously, "Auntie, you must have something to say to me today, right?" Ji Mingyu finally looked at him and said self-mockingly, "Don't worry. Don't worry, I'm not here to force you two apart. Ke's temper has been like mine since she was a child. She looks delicate and weak, but she's very stubborn. Forcing her will only push her towards you. I was able to abandon everything and run to Xioshan. She can do the same. I won't give you a lot of money and ask you to quit, although your family is not rich." Lu Cheng, I'm sorry, but I hope you can understand a mother's protective mentality after knowing that her daughter has a boyfriend. I have to investigate your situation. Empress Dowager is so scary. Lu Qing suddenly understood Yenjika's feelings. He said sincerely, "I understand your feelings." Ji Mingyu nodded slightly, "Very good. Although your family is not rich, you have great potential. Your martial arts strength has improved by leaps and bounds recently. Coupled with your current age, you will definitely feel that you have a bright future ahead of you. Money paper, you can earn more in the future. So I don't think money can be used against you. I won't set a goal for you to marry Ke. In the future, Ke will only become more and more outstanding. If you can't catch up with her, you'll feel inferior and quit on your own accord." Lu Cheng gradually calmed down as he listened. Doubts arose in his mind. "Auntie, what do you want to tell me? And Auntie, didn't you just find out that we are dating today? How did you find out so clearly?" Chapter 177. Ji Mingyu turned back and looked at Yenjika, who was about to start the competition. Her dimples appeared on her cheeks. Ke was in poor health when she was young, so she was spoiled. Unlike me, I was used to being wild with my senior brothers and sisters and learned to lie. When she mentioned that you and her cousin had defeated an 8th Pindan stage fighter by taking turns, she didn't say much, but she couldn't hide the pride, and happiness in her voice. It was even more obvious than when she got the highest score in the exam. My heart skipped a beat. Oh no, my daughter really has a boyfriend. So that's how I got exposed at the beginning. Lu Qing was suddenly enlightened and didn't feel depressed. Instead, he felt a kind of sweetness that made him want to laugh out loud. Knowing Yenjika's attitude and tone when she talked about him from bystanders made him more certain about her feelings for him, making him feel satisfied and happy. With my beloved girl on my side, no matter how terrible my mother-in-law and father-in-law are, I won't be afraid. It's a pity that I didn't see Ke's face and hear her tone. With these key points, if I still can't find out your information, then I've lived half of my life in vain. Ji Mingyu said calmly, "I'm here today to give you 2 wishes as Ke's mother, not demands." "Auntie, please go ahead." Lu Qing saw that Empress Dowager didn't want to force him and Yenjika apart, so he regained his usual calmness, but he was still in awe. The fact that Empress Dowager gave birth to Ke, raised her, and loved her was worthy of his respect. Ji Mingyu turned her head and looked at Lu Qing with a smile. "First, before you're sure that you can shoulder Ke's life, don't go too far. Can you do that? Don't go too far." Lu Qing almost didn't understand the meaning of these 4 words. After thinking for a while he realized, "Mother-in-law, you're too subtle. I'm not an irresponsible person. I'll work hard to improve myself for Ke, and I won't hurt her." Lu Qing replied to his mother-in-law in a more tactful way. Ji Mingyu nodded. "Secondly, I know that when 2 people are together, no matter how much they love each other in the past, they still need to make certain sacrifices in order to complete the run-in. But I hope that you won't let Ke sacrifice her own dreams and her own brilliance for you. Believe me, true love can withstand the test of time and distance." A test of time and distance? Ke's dream and brilliance? Lu Qing was a little confused and didn't quite understand what she meant, but he still said sincerely, "Auntie, if it's really Ke's dream, I can only support it with both hands. All right, remember what you said today. Ji Mingyu stood up slowly and commented. It won't be a big problem for Ku to win this game. Okay, I'll leave first. Don't tell Ku that I came. Yes. Suppressed by Empress Dowager's aura, Lu Qing couldn't find any words to say. He could only watch her leave maturely and gracefully. She joined another woman and walked out of hall number 2 along the aisle of the stands. What kind of dream would Ke have? I don't think I've ever asked. Lu Qing retracted his gaze. Seeing Yenjika suppressing Chenjun and using 24 blizzard strikes, he felt a little confused and inexplicable fear. Outside the Songqing Martial Arts Stadium, Ji Mingyu stopped at the entrance. She looked back inside softly. Junior uncle, this was not your original plan. Lu Xiaolan's senses were far better than ordinary people. Although she was not close, she heard the general idea. Ji Mingyu laughed at herself and said, when I saw Ku and that guy walking hand in hand and thinking of her fearful yet stubborn face, I remembered the past and my heart softened. That year, Xiushan train station had been in disrepair for a long time and was in tatters. That year, there was a young girl who came from Jiangnan with only a bag of luggage. When she saw the man she was destined to meet at the station, she didn't cry, nor did she feel wronged. She smiled sweetly and announced, I only have you. Memories kept flashing in her mind. Ji Mingyu's expression softened. She suddenly felt homesick, so she walked to the parking lot and said, Xiaolan, don't tell anyone about this, including your husband. If Ku's father and her grandparents know about this, they will turn the sky upside down. Don't worry, junior uncle. I know what to do. Lu Xiaolan, who was walking beside Ji Mingyu, answered with a smile. That's right. Back then, the old man and old lady doted on their youngest daughter the most. In the end, they were angered and hurt badly. Later on, they projected their feelings onto their more obedient and pitiful granddaughter. If they knew that their precious daughter had been abducted by a wild man when she had just entered university, it was simply unimaginable what would happen. After getting the competition list, Chen Jun also looked up Yenjika's information. From his friends in the martial arts circle in Songqing, he knew that the girl had achieved a small success in meditation, was good at listening skill, could forcibly pull the center of gravity, and had mastered 24 blizzard strikes. Therefore, he was well prepared. But his strength was average. He was not used to changing his fighting style at the last minute in order to avoid Yenjika's listening skill. He kept exposing all kinds of problems. Besides, he had to divert his attention to guard against Yenjika's forcibly pulling the center of gravity, which made him even more restrained. Before long, he was suppressed by 24 blizzard strikes. After only half a round, he couldn't hold on. Thanks to the help of the referee, he avoided being injured and fell off the ring. After this round, Yenjika was much more assured and had a clearer understanding of her strength. She was indeed qualified to reach the level of amateur second pin. The girl was overjoyed. She turned her head to look at the stands, looking for Lu Qing. When she found that familiar guy and made eye contact with him, for some reason, she felt relieved. She smiled widely and waved her fist. Looking at Yenjika's bright smile, Lu Qing was both happy and absent-minded. It was like heaven and hell when he faced Empress Dowager's aura just now. Empress Dowager acquiesced to my relationship with Ku? Just a wish, not a request? In an instant he came back to his senses. He felt so excited that his whole body was trembling. Ecstasy surged from the bottom of his heart. Although he didn't know why his mother-in-law had acquiesced, at least he had achieved the initial success and had a good start. I am Ku's above-board boyfriend. He waved his fist in excitement. Yenjika tilted her head and was puzzled. Why is Chung happier and more excited than me? This is only the first round of the ranking event. Whatever, as long as he is happy. And he seems to be happy from the bottom of his heart. He can't help it. Hee. Yenjika left the ring, checked with the competition supervisor and took back her phone. She walked along the aisle and walked briskly to Lu Qing. Lu Qing had already walked up to her and wanted to give her a big hug. Yenjika looked around shyly at her boyfriend's open arms. After confirming that no one was watching, she bit her lip and walked quickly to him, letting him hug her. Why are you so happy? Yenjika held back her laughter and asked in a low voice. Lu Qing had a lot to say and many things he longed to know. But considering that his girlfriend had matches in the afternoon and evening, he forced himself to hold back. I'm just happy that you have a good start. Yenjika laughed and broke free. She flipped her loose hair and looked around guiltily. Then she looked at her boyfriend suspiciously and said, Why do I feel that your smile is not normal? Is this a girl's intuition? Lu Qing laughed and said, What's not normal? Let's sit over there and wait for Sun Jian and Senior Li Mao. Okay. Yenjika was in a good mood and didn't think too much about her boyfriend's behavior just now. She sat down, took the unscrewed energy drink, and sipped to replenish her water. With her physical strength, even if she only played half of 24 blizzard strikes, it was inevitable that she would be sweating. Because of the perfect timing, they didn't have to wait for long before Sun Jian and Li Mao finished their matches and won their first match. After that, Sun Jian went to wait for Lin Hua. Lu Cheng and the others met up with Guqing, who had already finished her match. They walked to an express hotel 15 minutes away. Songqing University's new campus was too far away from Songqing Martial Arts Club, so it was troublesome to go back and forth. According to the usual practice, they booked rooms in advance for each match to rest and recover as much as possible. Of course, if they had enough time after the third match in the evening, they would still take the last school bus back to the dormitory. Lu Qing ran back and forth and busied himself for a while. Finally, Sun Jian, Li Mao, Jiang Fuxing, Wu Meng, Lin Hua, Li Xiaowen, Yenjika, Guqing and himself checked in. However, after taking the room card, he lured Yenjika to his room with the excuse that he wanted to discuss the match in the afternoon with her. You're not going to do anything bad, are you? Standing at the door, Yenjika suddenly felt a little timid and bit her lower lip. This was probably the first time she had opened a room with a boy. Lu Qing laughed and said, Am I such a pervert in your eyes? Yes. Yenjika answered crisply without hesitation. After that, her dimples appeared and she was very charming. Lu Qing was speechless for a moment and had to tell the truth. You have a match in the afternoon. How dare I do anything bad? I just learned a new skill and thought it would come in handy today. What new skill? Yenjika rolled her eyes and was full of curiosity. Lu Qing swiped the card and opened the door. He said with a smile, It's a massage skill to help you quickly relieve your fatigue. Really? Yenjika said with a face of I don't believe it. You'll know after you try it. It can also be used with the ointment to remove your bruises and swelling. You won't have any hidden injuries left after continuous matches. Lu Qing said seriously while inserting the room card into the socket. Looking at her boyfriend's serious face, Yenjika nodded slightly and smiled. Then I'll believe you this time. While talking, she walked in and looked around curiously. It seemed that she had never stayed in such an express hotel before. Clang! Lu Qing closed the door and blocked out the noise outside. You sit by the bed and I'll massage you, he suggested with a smile. Yenjika rolled her eyes at him. You're sweating all over. You don't think it smells, but I think it's dirty. Take a shower first and then try your new skill. Besides, she had to apply the ointment after the shower. After saying that, she took the bag from Lu Qing without any vigilance, just like in the locker room during the match. But when she bent down to take off her martial arts shoes, she suddenly froze. She seemed to have thought of something and her pretty face turned red. Then she rushed into the bathroom with her slippers and other things. She closed the door firmly and locked it with a click. What's wrong? Lu Qing was a little confused and sat by the bed casually. After a few minutes, the sound of the shower came from the bathroom. It was soft and dense, echoing in his ears. Lu Qing didn't feel anything at first, but as he listened, he suddenly found that the surroundings were unusually quiet, completely different from the locker room in the past. In this room, there's only me and Ku. This realization suddenly flashed in his mind, giving birth to an inexplicable feeling in his heart. He felt that the sound of the water seemed to be knocking on his heart and evoking something called ambiguity. A man and a woman alone in a room. He took a deep breath and told himself that Yenjika had a match in the afternoon, and it was a very important ranking event. He couldn't disturb her state of mind. The water condensed into ice, and the ice melted again. Lu Qing felt like he was sitting on pins and needles, sometimes restless and sometimes calm. When the sound of the shower stopped abruptly, he exhaled silently, as if he had just finished a challenge tournament. After a short while, Yanjika opened the door and came out. She was still wearing the white martial arts suit of Songqing University with black edges. Her hair was loosely tied up with a cowhide band, and her neck was white and slender. Her facial features were more and more beautiful at this time. Her exposed skin was moist and tender, as if it could be broken by a blow. Lu Qing looked like he was struck by lightning. He stared at her blankly, and gradually his mouth and tongue became dry. "What are you looking at?" Yanjika's face turned red as soon as she met Lu Cheng's eyes. She hummed shyly, and then she said with a little fear, I'd better go to Qing first. I always feel that Cheng will turn into a pervert if he howls. Why did I follow him and so stupidly? Lu Qing took a deep breath and smelled the fragrance of the girl after the shower. He quickly condensed the water into ice and said earnestly, "Trust me. I'm really just giving you a massage to relax. How can I bear to disturb the ranking event that you've been looking forward to for so long?" Looking at his sincere expression, Yanjika bit her lower lip and said, "Okay, I believe you." Speaking of this, she raised her eyes, which seemed to be a little misty, and looked at Lu Qing timidly. "Don't let me down." "Of course not. Look at my righteous face." Lu Qing deliberately made a joke to ease the girl's uneasiness. "Silly face." Yanjika cursed with a smile. She put down the martial arts shoes and other things in her hands and sat beside Lu Qing. She looked at her feet shyly and uneasily and said, "Let's start." Okay, Lu Qing first took out the ointment and put it aside, waiting to be used. Then he let the girl turn her body sideways, and then he knelt on one leg on the edge of the bed and stretched out his hands to press her shoulders. After a few times, Yanjika was a little happy and a little surprised. "Cheng, when did you learn to do this? You're quite good at it." Lu Qing laughed and said, "Didn't you say before that when I mastered the skill of massage, you would let me help you with physical therapy to relax? I've always kept it in mind, watched a lot of videos, and looked up a lot of information. With my insight and understanding of the body, how could they hide from me with their little tricks? I learned it quickly. You still remember it." Yanjika pursed her lips and looked in front of her, her deep dimples showing sweetness. "But you're usually so busy. How can you have time to look at this? You also collected so much information about marine life. I still have time to squeeze." Lu Cheng's hands moved down and pressed the girl's back muscles. He answered with a smile, "There are some non-professional courses that I don't need to listen to, but I don't dare to skip them, so I can do these things. But it's a little wasteful. In the university, there were many similar courses." Lu Qing always suspected that these courses were specially prepared for the students to relax. Compared to them, the elective courses that were chosen based on one's interest made him more eager to listen carefully. No wonder a senior brother once said that he would always choose to skip elective courses and skip compulsory courses. Yanjika narrowed her eyes and said, "I use these courses to review the professional courses and read the extended literature." "Good student." Lu Qing praised. Like a child expecting praise, he asked, "Is it comfortable? Do you want it more or less?" "It's okay." Yanjika answered reservedly, "A little more." Feeling her satisfaction, the smile on Lu Cheng's face grew wider. Together with the application of the ointment, he began to massage the muscles of the girl's arms and legs to relax the remaining tension after the explosion. After the familiarization just now, Yanjika was more and more satisfied with his skills. Gradually, she closed her eyes and concentrated on enjoying. After a while of physical therapy, Lu Qing was too embarrassed to ask his girlfriend to lie down, so he squatted down and massaged her ankle. He glanced around and saw a bruise on the back of her foot where her slippers were exposed. He applied the ointment and rubbed it away with a moderate amount of strength. Because part of the bruise was blocked by the slippers, he raised his head and wanted to ask Yanjika to lift her foot and take off her shoes. But when he saw the girl closed her eyes and enjoyed it, he felt that there was no need to ask. Since she asked him to massage it, she would definitely not object. Lu Qing held her delicate ankle and lifted it gently. Yanjika instinctively struggled for a while and then relaxed. Her eyelashes trembled slightly, and her cheeks blushed unconsciously. After taking off her shoes, Luqing suddenly stopped breathing. He saw the girl's small feet, delicate toes, jade-like skin, and fleshy instep, which didn't match her elegant appearance, but was also quite cute. Luqing didn't know when it started, but he felt that his breath became heavier and his kneading action became more like caressing. Sun Jian, however, was a little depressed because he met a strong opponent in the group and lost the previous match. Since then, the hope of qualifying was very slim. It's just bad luck. We can try again in June. Everyone comforted him. After walking for a while, Yenjika slowed down and said pitifully in Luqing's ear, "I used too much strength in the last match. My muscles are a little sore." Luqing looked around and suggested with a smile, "How about I carry you on my back?" "It's too embarrassing." Yenjika refused immediately. "What are you afraid of? Let's walk slowly and take a detour. You can bury your face in my shoulder later. Then no one will recognize you and you won't feel embarrassed," Luqing said half-jokingly. Yenjika burst out laughing. "You're making me sound like an ostrich." Under Luqing's persuasion, she finally agreed. They walked slower and slower until they completely fell behind. "Come on up." Luqing squatted down and said with a smile. Yenjika put her hands on his shoulders and let him hook her legs and carry her on his back. "So light." Luqing chuckled. At this time, the sky was dark and the night wind was cool. The faint fragrance of flowers floated around. It was quiet and peaceful. Yenjika didn't say anything. Her cheeks were rosy and her dimples were shallow. Luqing saw that no one was around and took a deep breath. "Cool, your mother came to see me today during your match." "What?" Yenjika was confused and doubted that she had heard it wrong. Luqing didn't turn around. He smiled and said, "She confirmed that we were dating, but she didn't seem to object." Although his mother-in-law had asked him not to tell Ke, he was very clear about who would be his future family and who would be the most important one. "My mother? Did she come back?" Yenjika didn't realize until now. She was confused, shocked, and puzzled. Luqing told her in detail what they had talked about, and finally asked the question that he wanted to know the most. "Ke, what's your dream?" Chapter 178. After listening to Luqing's story, Yenjika wondered if she was really proud and happy when she mentioned her boyfriend. At the same time, she wanted to exclaim that Tai Xueran was so powerful that ordinary people like her couldn't compare with him. But the last question made her fall silent. Under the illumination of the street lamps, she rested her hands on his shoulders. Her eyes peered over his sideburns, looking at half of his face from a different angle than usual. She could feel the steady but anxious footsteps beneath her. She pursed her lips and said, "You're too young. My biggest dream is, of course, to make up for the shortcomings of my body and continue to walk on the path of martial arts. Even if I may not be able to go very far, I will be very, very happy with every step forward. However, with the current medical development, there is no hope for this. Moreover, it has been more than 10 years, and I have accepted this reality. It does not affect my daily life. My mom is talking about another thing. I used to think that I had a talent for numbers and logic, and could see through the rules of things at a glance. Humph, don't laugh. I was so innocent back then. Now I have been led astray by you. Therefore, I often tell my mother that I can definitely inherit your company. It's a piece of cake. But I don't like to deal with all kinds of strangers. I don't like to fight and scheme. I don't like to run around everywhere. So I want to learn mathematics, economics, trade, and finance. I want to be a strategist, hiding behind the scenes and strategizing. I applied to Songqing University because I wanted to keep an eye on my brother in case something happened to him. Also, our school and Yvonne University in the United States have a joint training program. When I am in my senior year, I can go there to study under the top scholars in the world after passing the assessment. It will take about 3 to 5 years. The night breeze was cool. The girl's voice drilled into Luqing's ears and made him a little absent-minded. Is this the test of time and distance? Little Ming already has a hard time in a long-distance relationship, let alone in a foreign country. He took a breath and asked seriously and nervously, "Will you come back?" Yenjika burst into laughter and answered firmly, "Of course I will. My relatives and friends are here. The culture and history that are deeply ingrained in my bones are here. All my favorite food is here. The boy I like is here too." Towards the end of her sentence, her voice became softer and softer until it was as soft as a mosquito's buzzing, but she still insisted on saying it. Fortunately, she was on Orange's back and didn't have to face him. He wouldn't see her embarrassed expression. "The boy I like is also here." A smile appeared on Lu Cheng's face. He let out a long sigh and said, "Then go. Go and pursue your dreams. Let me see the more brilliant and beautiful you." "Cheng, have you been scared silly by my mom? Even your words have become more cultured." Yenjika chuckled and put her hands around his shoulders, clasping them in front of him. "Aren't you worried?" she asked in an uncertain tone. "Yes. My little fairy is so pretty, so cute, so smart, and so beautiful. I don't know how many men have bad intentions towards her." Yenjika pursed her lips and smiled. She thought for a while and said, "I'm quite confident in myself. There were many good boys who pursued me before, but I still cruelly rejected them all. I know what I want, so I can persevere. You can say that I'm very rational, but you can also say that I'm very hard-hearted. But you, Chung, you have so many fans now. When you step into the dance stage and enter the professional martial arts circle in the future, there will definitely be more girls who like you and even seduce you. Without me watching over you, I really don't know if you can reject them. My mom always says that not many men can withstand this kind of test." Lu Qing didn't look back. He smiled and said, "I'm confident in myself. If I can persist in training every day, I can also persist in keeping a distance from other girls. I'm going to become a mighty one with physical invulnerability. How can I not have some extraordinary perseverance?" "Chung, your words remind me of a term in a novel." Yenjika was silent for a few seconds. She suddenly laughed and said, "Ascetic boy." "Pfft, what kind of term is that?" Lu Qing didn't think too much about the term and said, "Actually, it's not a big deal to be in a foreign relationship. In the age of the internet, communication is so convenient. As long as you coordinate your time, you can still chat every day. Besides, I should be a powerful dance stage fighter by then. I can definitely afford to fly once a month. But I'm a little sad that you're alone outside and can't find anyone to help you." Yenjika's eyes turned dark and bright. She replied with a smile, "I'll definitely be a tough girl of professional ninth pin by then. What can't I solve by myself? Well, when I'm there, I'll focus on my studies. I'll wear a pair of big black-rimmed glasses and dress like a nun. I won't attend any parties and will be immune to all harassment. I'll try to come back in 3 years. Won't you become Abbess Miju?" Lu Qing was happy to hear that. He reminded her worriedly, "You must be careful of those men who try to get close to you by pretending to be your fellow countrymen." Yenjika immediately laughed and raised her head. "Are you talking about yourself? You must learn from the mistakes of others," Lu Qing said half seriously and half self-deprecatingly. Yenjika was infected by his optimism. Her melancholy melted away. She looked at the back of his head with a smile, and suddenly remembered a sentence. "I was young then. I didn't understand the ruthlessness of time and the cruelty of distance. The reason why I didn't tell Chung that I was going abroad was that after falling in love, I was hesitant and scared. I wasn't as decisive as before. I really considered whether I should give up or not. But when I thought of doing something I didn't like in the future, or only having him as the center of my life, I felt that it was too sad. If I don't chase my dream while I'm young and still have the drive, I'll definitely regret it in the future." Sigh. It's true that a hero's temper is short because of love. Well, I'm that hero. Yenjika's arms around Lu Cheng's neck tightened. She leaned over and whispered in Lu Cheng's ear, "You're a femme fatale." "Ah?" Lu Cheng was dumbfounded. What was this all about? Yenjika thought about it seriously and then repeated, "You're a femme fatale." Lu Cheng didn't understand until now. He laughed and changed the topic. Even Empress Dowager has acknowledged me. Does that mean we're dating openly?" "Of course not. You just passed my mom." There's still my dad, my grandpa, my grandma, my grandpa, and so on. The revolution hasn't succeeded yet. Comrade, you still need to work hard. No way. I thought Empress Dowager was the most difficult one. Who gave you such an illusion? I always thought my mom would be the most accepting one. Their laughter floated in the wind and scattered on the road at night. Lu Qing carried the girl to the school bus stop. He was reluctant to put her down and wanted to keep walking like this. There were still 3 years left. There would be a way when the time came. The next morning, Lu Qing seemed to have matured a little. He stood there and calmly comprehended the 2 visualization diagrams. This was the only thing he could rely on to settle down and protect his love. After a short while, he closed his eyes and concentrated his spirit and chi. He outlined the freezing sky and freezing ground diagram in his mind bit by bit. It was no different from the previous days. During this process, he gradually merged the frost concept of the Jindan that was engraved in his heart with the brush strokes, making each snowflake seem to have a life of its own, bringing a distinct coldness to the empty world. 1, 2, 3. The world slowly turned white. A chill that could freeze everything and bury life was about to come out. Lu Cheng's spirit was already tired. At this moment, he suddenly realized that he had finally reached the edge of success after several days of accumulation and comprehension. He endured the emptiness and sketched the last stroke. With a boom, the freezing sky and freezing ground diagram suddenly expanded and occupied every corner of his mind. The bone-chilling coldness turned into a solid substance, freezing life and freezing the world. Subtle changes appeared in Lu Cheng's body. Some of his muscles tightened or trembled. Some of his tendons and vessels expanded or contracted. The corresponding organs squirmed or rose and fell. Normally speaking, every movement of the human body, no matter how weak it was, would create waves that belonged to itself. However, they were too weak and would disappear in the blink of an eye. But at this moment, these waves were ingeniously stacked together, turning into an icy chill that even normal people could feel, spreading in all directions. The leisurely geyser sure at the side suddenly froze. He looked over and whispered in astonishment. "You've succeeded in your visualization?" Lu Cheng's spirit had reached its limit. He couldn't hold it anymore, and exited the state of unity. He opened his eyes and happily answered his master's question. "Yes, I've finally succeeded." "Finally?" Geyser sure was stunned. He suddenly laughed and said, "Not bad. You have some of my demeanor back then. That's all for today. Don't try to force yourself to avoid hurting your brain. Okay, you can practice by yourself now. Master was so awesome back then. I couldn't beat him even with the help of Jindan." Lu Cheng's heart trembled. He put away the pride and satisfaction of finally succeeding in his visualization, and started to run seriously. When he was far away, Geyser sure cursed in his heart. "Damn it. I thought it was amazing enough that I succeeded in 1 month of visualization. Could it be that the Longhu Immortal's relic he got helped him understand the frost concept? But there's no precedent for this." She forcibly held back her laughter, turned her head to look out the window, and said casually, You didn't sleep well, did you?" At this moment, the image of Lu Cheng running to the bathroom with a hunched back flashed through her mind. She had a hard time holding back her laughter, and her body was trembling slightly because of it. "Oh no, I've been led astray by Chung and Dirty Tong." Seeing the girl like this and hearing her question, Lu Cheng's old face immediately turned red. Yes, he did have sex with her in the middle of the night. Unfortunately, when he woke up, he couldn't remember Yenjika's beautiful appearance in his dream. Sigh. As a young man with a strong body and vigor that far exceeds that of ordinary people, it would be strange if he didn't have any reaction in the middle of the night after being stimulated so many times that he almost couldn't control himself. Empress Dowager said to stop before going too far. What a great test. But to what extent should he stop? While thinking, he lowered his voice and explained, "I'm sorry, Coach Yen. I'm not tired because of this. It's because I finally got started on visualization today. I've used up too much energy, so I'm a little tired." Visualization. Yenjika was born in a martial arts family, so she naturally understood that Lu Cheng's visualization was not a normal visualization. She turned around and said with surprise, "Coach sure officially accepted you as a disciple?" She even showed the visualization diagram to Chung. "Yes." Lu Qing admitted frankly. "Master, I didn't reveal it." She guessed it. "I didn't break my promise." Yenjika's clear eyes were filled with obvious joy. She pursed her lips and said with a smile, "You're a martial artist with a master and a background in the future. You won't be bullied by others. Even old men and women would think highly of you. It's not enough. You can only be strong if you're strong yourself." Lu Chung was full of confidence after getting started on visualization. Yenjika looked at his confident and high-spirited look. Her dark and beautiful eyes sparkled like stars. She laughed in a low voice and said, "My brother spent 3 months to get the beginner's level of visualization corresponding to meteor force." Even if Chung started to comprehend the visualization diagram since the awakening of the power of frost, it still took less than a month. She couldn't hide the pride and happiness in her voice. Lu Qing didn't mention that it only took him a week, because he thought it was due to the help of the Jindan. He just smiled and said, "Everyone has different talents. Well, combined with the supernatural ability of frost, it won't be long before I can master the frost force." He didn't say these words to show off. He mainly wanted to share his joy with the girl he loved, and to give her enough confidence. Based on what Casanova Kai Xiaoming had said about long-distance relationships, he had grasped an important point. When faced with the test of time and distance, it wasn't enough to rely on feelings alone. One had to give the other party enough confidence in all aspects. "Frost force," Yenjika repeated in a low voice. Her eyebrows and the corners of her eyes were full of joy. Lu Qing changed his hand from holding hers to intertwined fingers. They looked at each other and the atmosphere became warm and meaningful. They felt that any random topic was so interesting and comfortable. After a while, Yenjika rolled her eyes and couldn't restrain her curiosity. She pretended to ask casually, "You're not tired because of that? In other words, you didn't sleep well last night? Did you have a strange dream?" After asking, she blushed and looked out of the window. But she couldn't help looking back at Lu Cheng's reaction. "What should I do? I've been with Chung for a long time. I'm getting bolder and more shameless in this aspect." Lu Cheng laughed and recalled the bitterness of getting up in the middle of the night to change his pants. He answered honestly and teasingly, "Yes, I had a wet dream. I dreamed that I and you." "Don't say it." Yenjika took his hand and hit his thigh. She looked out of the window in panic. But her ears were dyed with a layer of red, sparkling and translucent like a gem. After a long time she calmed down. She turned back and whispered, "Big pervert. You asked, but you became so shy after asking. Girls are so strange." Lu Qing really wanted to scratch the back of his head. Yenjika saw that he became honest and nodded with satisfaction. She volunteered, "Come closer. I'll rub your temples and show you the skills of a massage expert." "Okay." Lu Qing was pleasantly surprised. He sat closer, smelling the girl's delicate fragrance and feeling her slender but nimble fingers rubbing his temples to relieve his tiredness. "Your skills are good. When did you learn?" He praised sincerely. Yenjika raised her chin and said with a little pride, "Yesterday, when you gave me a massage, I just felt it a little and learned it. I'm not as stupid as you." Yes. You're our family's IQ." Lu Cheng praised exaggeratedly. Enjoying the girl's gentleness, he felt good both physically and mentally. He only hated that the journey to the old campus was not long enough. They arrived in only half an hour. Yenjika's opponent in the morning was called Zhang Hengwang. He was the strongest opponent in her group. There were even battle videos of him on the internet. When analyzing the videos last night, Lu Qing felt lucky that the girl didn't meet him in the first round. Because of her lack of actual combat experience, she could easily make mistakes. However, after yesterday's 3 matches, Lu Qing was sure that his girlfriend had completely gotten rid of her newbie status. With her strength, superior inheritance, and him helping her to analyze her opponent's battle videos, her chance of winning was more than 70%. After the match started, it went as he expected. Yenjika took the initiative from the beginning and brought the situation into her control. Even so, as a boyfriend, Lu Qing didn't dare to relax. He was afraid that something wrong would upset the girl. At this moment, he saw 3 figures that he wasn't familiar with, but they weren't strangers either. Dream Squad. Lu Qing said to himself. They were Qianruoyu, Jiang Dingyi, and Feng Xiaoquan. What a coincidence. Qianruoyu greeted with a smile. Lu Qing was confused. Yes, it is. I didn't expect you to come here. They were already of amateur first pin, and didn't need to participate in this ranking event. If you can cheer for your girlfriend, we can also cheer for our junior brothers and sisters. Qianruoyu chuckled and turned to Yan Zhika in the field. I saw you, so I came to say hello. I see. Lu Qing suddenly understood, but he didn't want to chat with her since he wasn't familiar with her. He just replied with 3 simple words. Qianruoyu didn't care about his attitude and said with a smile. Do you want to work part-time during the summer? You can work part-time in our martial arts club. The pay is good 9 to 5, and we won't ask you to reveal the unique skills of our sect. We just want to teach the students the basics. This wasn't her idea but her father's. Who wouldn't want to have a good relationship with such a talented fighter with a strong background and potential? In Jianghu, harmony wasn't the most important thing, but one more friend was one more path. The real old fox knew this. Lu Qing knew that he could reach the peak of body refining realm with Thunder Roar Zen before the summer vacation. He needed to prepare medicine soup and other things to break through to Danqi realm, which was a huge expense. He had already planned to find a way to make money. The rest of his private money had to be used for dating. 99% of it was not enough. However, Yan Zhika would definitely go back to Xiushan by then. Why would he stay in Songcheng? Anyway, there were ways to make money in Xiushan. Thinking of this, he replied politely, I have to go back home during the summer vacation. If there is a chance, I'd love to work part-time in the martial arts club. Anytime. Qianruoyu maintained her standard smile. After she turned and walked away, she exhaled and said, It's so stressful to be with such a guy. Chapter 180. Lu Qing didn't care about the feelings of Qianruoyu and the others. Instead, he was curious about how long the triangle relationship could last, and when it would happen. He turned his eyes back to the field, and saw that Yan Zhika had finally created an opportunity by pulling back her center of gravity twice in a row. She borrowed strength and launched 24 blizzard strikes, completely suppressing Zhang Hengwang with the momentum of the mega avalanche. Zhang Hengwang made 2 efforts in a row, but they were all defused by the girl with some skills of yin-yang twist. Not only was the avalanche not interrupted, but it became more and more fierce and terrifying. In the end, it broke the opponent's stance with an overwhelming momentum. Seizing the opportunity, Yan Zhika visualized the explosive power of meteor fall. Adding all the strength she had borrowed before, she leaned sideways and directly knocked Zhang Hengwang out of the arena. If she hadn't held back at the last moment, her opponent would have at least broken a few ribs due to her bouncing and shaking. Yan Zhika wins. The referee withdrew his hand, which was trying to stop the fight. Yan Zhika exhaled a mouthful of foul air. She only felt that her body was empty, and the muscles of her legs were trembling uncontrollably. This was a hard fight. Although her opponent was at a disadvantage at the beginning, he defended impenetrably with his rich experience and good strength. Sometimes he could even counterattack once or twice. In the last fierce attack of the mega avalanche, he had almost held on for a round. He was really a tenacious enemy, who made her consume a lot of energy. Ignoring Zhang Hengwang's attempt to stand up and talk to her, Yan Zhika turned to look at the stands. She met Lu Qing's eyes and smiled. No matter what, she had made it through the group. There was only one battle left before she reached amateur second pin. She just had to grit her teeth and endure it. She took back her phone and turned to walk up the aisle. After a few steps, her delicate eyebrows suddenly wrinkled. She felt the tension and trembling of the muscles of her legs. Her knees almost gave way and she fell to the ground. Before she could think of anything, she saw a blur in front of her. She saw Lu Qing jump down from the high platform like an eagle. His toes touched the ground midway and he changed his direction. He arrived in front of her in a flying posture. The whole process had the beauty of a burst of power, and also the elegance of lifting heavy things as if they were light. Are you okay? Lu Qing held the girl and asked with concern. Yen Zheka was in a daze, as if she hadn't come back to her senses yet. Her face was full of confusion until her body was held by her boyfriend. Then she smiled little by little. Her watery eyes looked to the side, hiding a little pride and joy. She pretended not to care and said, "Nothing. I just consumed too much energy." "You scared me to death just now. You appeared in front of me in the blink of an eye. Didn't I see you almost fall?" Lu Qing looked around and found that there were still many people who had noticed his feat. They were full of admiration and gave him a thumbs up. He really wanted sex more than his life. It was just a piece of cake. Lu Qing smiled contentedly and suggested to the girl, "Let's go straight back to the hotel and not wait for them. Let's make the best use of the time to recover. The most important battle is in the afternoon. We'll be fine once we get through it." Yes. Yen Zheka knew that this was the best and most reasonable choice, so she nodded politely. Just as she was about to support her boyfriend, she saw Lu Qing crouch down and pat her on the shoulder. "Come on, I'll carry you." Yen Zheka wanted to say that's so embarrassing. But considering the tense muscles in her body and her boyfriend's attitude, she swallowed the words. She looked around and then lowered her head guiltily. She loosened her bun and let her black hair hang down, covering half of her cheeks. I'm an ostrich." She muttered to herself and leaned on Lu Cheng's back. She put her hands on her shoulders and didn't let her chest touch her boyfriend's body. Lu Qing knew that the girl was shy, so he talked about what happened before to divert her attention. "I just met Qianruoyu and her friends. She politely invited me to work in her martial arts club during the summer vacation." Yen Zheka was really interested. She stared at the back of her boyfriend's head and said with a faint smile, "So are you going? Isn't it up to you?" Lu Qing took the opportunity to ask, Are you going back to Xioshan during the summer vacation?" "Of course, I'm a little homesick." Yen Zheka's tone became light. "At most, I'll take a week or two to play with Grandpa. Isn't that right? Since you're going back to Xioshan, wouldn't it be crazy for me to stay in Songqing?" Lu Qing didn't slow down and carried the girl out of the second hall. Yen Zheka asked thoughtfully, "Chung, you should have practiced martial arts to the bone and body during the summer vacation, right? That was the peak of the body refining state. No need for summer vacation." Lu Cheng's answer was concise and full of confidence. But he immediately became long-winded and told the girl about his plan. "I've thought about it. If I want to break through to the Danqi state, I can't just rely on 10,000 yuan. During the summer vacation, I'll check if there are any small challenge tournaments in the province and take some time to get some prize money. If there's no money, I'll ask my classmates for help and work part-time in the martial arts club." Yen Zheka heard that Lu Qing had already made plans and preparations. She bit her lower lip with her white teeth to hide her smile, but she couldn't hide the gentleness in her expression. Her hands on Lu Cheng's shoulders unconsciously moved to his front. Lu Cheng's heart skipped a beat when he felt the girl leaning on him gently. He felt her strong and straight body. It was the season of spring and flowers were in full bloom. He was wearing thin clothes, but Yen Zheka had just finished a match and was feeling hot, so she didn't wear the pink and white jacket. Lu Cheng silently recited the names of the gods and Buddhas, trying to divert his attention to more important things like last time. Ku had fought 4 matches in a day and a half, so she was very tired. "I'll give her a good physical therapy later, at least let her recover 70% or 80% of her strength." Speaking of the summer vacation, I wonder if the special training will be suspended during the 1st of May to let everyone take a breather. Little Ming's girlfriend will come to Songqing to play. Should I ask Ku to go sightseeing with the nearby scenic spots? He talked with Yen Zheka while thinking aimlessly. Finally, they arrived at the hotel. This time, Yen Zheka learned her lesson and went back to her and Guiqing's room to take a shower, so as not to add fuel to the fire and arouse Cheng's beast. Lu Qing also took the opportunity to wash his face and sober up. He didn't forget that the black fertilizer would evaporate and so on. Maybe it was because of his good performance yesterday that he could control himself at the critical moment. Yen Zheka trusted him more today. She directly lay on the bed with a bashful attitude and constantly changed her position to match Lu Cheng's massage position. Looking at her light and soft body and boundless beauty, Luqing raised his head and felt that tongue twisters couldn't stop him anymore. Cheng, what are you doing? Yinzheka just happened to lean on the pillow. Luqing smiled bitterly. Reciting the Heart Sutra, color is emptiness, emptiness is color. Yinzheka almost burst out laughing. She forced herself to hold back, and said with her body slightly trembling, recite it well, I believe you. I don't believe in myself. Luqing wailed to himself and exhaled. He visualized a thundercloud and tightened some of his muscles. When he pressed the girl's thigh, he exploded the vibration force. This was a flash of inspiration after yesterday's massage. He came up with a new idea for the use of Thunder Roar Zen. Control the strength to relieve the deep fatigue in the muscles. Yinzheka suddenly answered with a and asked in surprise, Cheng, what's this technique? It's so strange. It's the daily use of tremor force. How do you feel? Luqing said with a little pride. Thunder Roar Zen was originally a martial art that could be used to train the bone marrow and the viscera. But it still felt strange to use it as a massage technique. I wonder if Master will beat me. Tremor force? Yinzheka slightly opened her pink lips and revealed her white teeth. Her face was adorable. This was the tremor force that could defeat most of the professional ninth pin fighters. Just to give me a massage? Cheng is so creative. But why do I feel so happy? Yeah, how do you feel? Luqing asked again to confirm the final strength. Yinzheka pursed her lips and curved her eyebrows. A little bit more gently. Otherwise, it would affect other parts of the body and make her feel uncomfortable. After that, Luqing, who was concentrating on controlling the strength, didn't think too much. But when he switched back to the normal massage technique to recover his energy, he saw Yinzheka fall asleep without any defense. He felt a little restless and had to go to the bathroom to calm himself down. He went back and forth 3 times. When Yinzheka woke up, she saw Luqing was still busy giving her a massage. She felt warm in her heart and asked softly, Cheng, are you tired? He looked very tired. Tremor force was not a martial art with low consumption. I'm okay. Luqing tried to stay awake and said, how do you feel? How much have you recovered? Yinzheka got up from the bed and slowly made a routine. She said with surprise and joy, it's almost the same as when I went out this morning. That's good. I'll go out to buy some food. You lie down for a while. Seeing the girl's surprise, Luqing felt that all his hard work was not in vain. And at this level, the rest of the fatigue could only be recovered by itself. Seeing him go out in a hurry, Yinzheka leaned on the pillow and smiled gently. Her eyes were like water. At 1 o'clock, the two returned to the arena and received the results of the draw from the service desk. Yinzheka vs He Lingling. Luqing endured the exhaustion and the throbbing pain caused by excessive mental exhaustion, and immediately looked up the information of his opponent. She seems to be a little stronger than your opponent in the morning. He made a judgment while looking. Yinzheka was also looking at her phone. She nodded slightly and said, she's good at dragon shape and practicing the spine. She's very good at catching. Don't think about letting her catch. Dragon claws are mainly tearing. You'll get hurt if you're not careful. Luqing started a discussion with the girl. After a long time, Yinzheka had a general idea. She sighed and said, I just checked QQ. Qing said that although senior brother Sun Jian won the last match, he still didn't make it to the next round. The ranking event really depends on luck. But my little fairy is very lucky, Luqing said with emotion. Yinzheka looked at him with a smile and said, you're going to participate in the professional ranking event in April. How do you feel about your luck? Do you want my luck to shine on you? Luqing laughed in a low voice and said, Coach Yen, can I brag? Brag. Yinzheka's eyes lit up and she urged him curiously. Based on the current situation, I think I'm the standard to measure other people's luck. Luqing said with a smile, you're lucky if you don't get my number. If you do, you can only say you have bad luck. He said this with confidence and high spirits. He had mastered the Thunder Roar Zen, and was sure to master the Frost Force before the end of April. If he didn't even have the confidence to make it to the ranking event, he might as well go back and kill himself with a piece of tofu. At 2:50, Yenjika stepped into the ring and faced the last and most crucial opponent of the ranking event. If she won this match, her previous efforts would be meaningful. If she lost this match, she had to start all over again. He Lingling was about the same height as Yenjika. She looked more solemn. At this moment, she took a breath and said with a smile, "I thought it would be easier. Those who can make it to the next round are not easy to deal with." Yenjika didn't fall for her opponent's arrogance. "I won't be careless." Chapter 181. He Lingling was stunned for a moment, then she chuckled. "I thought a girl like you who is spoiled and everything goes smoothly would be easy to be complacent and arrogant. What does she mean by being spoiled, and everything goes smoothly?" Yenjika felt that He Lingling's words seemed to be complimenting her, but in fact, there were sharp needles hidden in them. She felt a little uncomfortable, but she had received a good education since she was young, so she didn't want to argue with her enemy. So she closed her eyes, adjusted her emotions, and prepared for the best battle state. She felt He Lingling's noisy voice gradually fade away, and her mind slowly cleared. She suddenly recalled what had happened in the past few days. Mom had acquiesced to Cheng's existence, so she didn't have to worry about it, feel guilty and worry about it anymore. She took this opportunity to tell Cheng about her plan to study abroad, and got his understanding and support. She didn't have to worry about it all the time, a single man and a single woman in a room. Furthermore, there was intimate skin contact, but Cheng still endured it. He would rather suffer by himself than let me be disturbed. This proved that he didn't like me purely because of lust. Everything was so happy and relaxing. The burden in her heart was lifted layer by layer. So free and satisfied. Yenjika opened her eyes and felt refreshed. Her mind was unprecedentedly lively, and all the distracting thoughts in her mind faded away, leaving only the match in front of her. The last match. When she was a little impatient, the referee raised his right hand and waved it down. "Start." He Lingling had been preparing for a long time. She leaned forward, bounced her spine, and pounced forward like a dragon, approaching Yenjika at an extremely fast speed. Dragon form, rising dragon. She had practiced this move to the current level, so she could forcibly pull back her center of gravity with her spine like Lu Cheng and Yenjika. However, she still lacked fine control of her body muscles, which could easily hurt other parts of her body. So she wouldn't use this move under normal circumstances. And if this move was cultivated to the peak of the body refinement realm, with a flick of the spine, most of the muscles in the body would exert force, vibrating and stirring the air. Combined with the sound of breathing in the mouth, it could create a low roar like a dragon's roar, producing an effect similar to the lion's roar. Seeing that He Lingling was almost in front of her, Yenjika, who had lost her balance, calmed down and visualized a scene of rolling snow. She shook her right arm and hit out. He Lingling had already raised her right hand, clenched it into a fist, and struck out from the side. Bang! As soon as the two of them collided, He Lingling's 5 fingers popped out, making a series of crackling sounds. Her iron fingers were like hooks, grabbing Yenjika's fist. Dragon form, dragon claw tier. Yenjika was no stranger to this move. She had been fighting according to the method she had discussed with Lu Cheng before, which was to leave as soon as she touched the dragon. Now, with the help of the rebound of the collision, she quickly withdrew her right fist and narrowly avoided the dragon's claw. At the same time, she twisted her waist and tightened her thighs. Her left foot kicked out like a straight soft whip towards He Lingling's knee. "I don't believe you can use the dragon claw skill." At this moment, He Lingling bent her spine and bent her body, lowering her body in time. Her right hand's 5 fingers tore through the wind, fiercely grabbing Yenjika's ankle. Dragon form, dragon form. The most important part of training was the spine, which was the dragon of the body. Yenjika's heart tightened. She knew that once she was caught by the dragon's claw and torn, with her listening skill, she would have no time to react. Her left leg would be temporarily disabled, and it would be difficult to recover without several weeks or even months of treatment. This kind of move was one of the main culprits that caused more serious injuries in the arena matches, because it was difficult for the referee to make a judgment in time. If his vision was slightly off, It would be difficult for him to know whether the next move would be a grab or a tear, and he would not be able to judge in advance whether the captured fighter had the means to deal with it. If he was half a beat slower, once the force was released, the result would be irreversible. At this moment, Yenjika's left leg had just whipped towards Yenjika, and it seemed that it would be difficult for her to change her move or dodge. She could only see if there was a way to create an instant burst of strength to escape the dragon's claw. The situation was very dangerous. But suddenly, her body trembled strangely. Her left leg paused, and she twisted her waist and back. Her whole body soared into the air, and with a spring of her right leg, she kicked He Lingling's chin. Chain kick, one of the skills of the Yin-Yang twist. This move was like a stroke of genius, completely out of He Lingling's expectations. Seeing that the tip of the opponent's foot was just inches away, she could only bend her waist back, and in a flash, she completed a difficult iron bridge. Even so, she still felt a burning pain on her chin, as if she had been brushed by something. With her ability to control her center of gravity, she could not maintain her balance like Lu Cheng, so she simply went with the flow and rolled on the ground like a lazy donkey. Yenjika forced herself to use the chain kick, but when she landed, she also could not maintain her center of gravity. She stumbled 2 steps to the side, and barely managed to stabilize herself. One leaped up like a carp, while the other turned around with the help of the rebound of her feet. The two resumed the confrontation before the match began. Seeing this, Lu Qing finally felt relieved and let out a long sigh. He was so worried that he almost thought that Yenjika could not resist and had to admit defeat. Of course, if they were in each other's shoes, he thought that he had more than 10 ways to break He Lingling's dragon claw. Yenjika adjusted her breath and began to attack again. This time, she changed her fighting style, which was closer to the style of the 8-diagram swimming body palm. She slid to the side of Yenjika and gave her a punch. He Lingling did not have time to use her dragon claw, so she could only raise her right arm to block the punch. Yenjika immediately used the force to swing her body and fiercely kicked out her right leg, but it could not pass the knee. Bam! He Lingling kicked out her right leg to block the attack. Her body leaned slightly to the side, and her 5 fingers were like iron, tearing the air in the air. Yenjika did not stop. She slid and stepped to the side of Yenjika again while avoiding the enemy's attack. Lu Qing had been sparring with Yenjika every day, so he was familiar with this martial art. It was a palm technique passed down in the Ji family, called 9 Palaces Flying Dragon Palm, which focused on attacking from the side and the back. Lin Ke did not like it very much, so he hardly used it. Yenjika was using it now, but not exactly copying it. Her footwork was the footwork of the Flying Dragon Palm, but her hand fighting and leveraging skills belonged to the 24 Blizzard Strikes. Yenjika's figure fluttered and her posture was graceful. She seized the opportunity to use the brutal blizzard fiercer and fiercer, but she was not greedy. Once Yenjika used her dragon claw, she would immediately move away and change her position. Lu Qing nodded slightly to show his agreement, which put He Lingling at a disadvantage. She could not use her strength, and could only passively defend. Now it's time to see who is more impatient, he whispered to himself. The reason why he did not say who was close to the limit first was that both of them did not have a clear understanding of each other's condition. In this case, the one who was impatient first would easily expose the problem. It was very likely that the one who failed first would find out that the other was already at the limit after the failure, and would be able to win by parrying a few more moves. Lu Qing could only pray anxiously, hoping that his tremor force massage would work. Yenjika was born with a weak constitution. Although she had consciously made up for it and done targeted training, she was still a little weaker than other martial artists of the same level. Therefore, the more she fought, the more anxious she became. The more she fought, the faster she felt her strength dropping. She wanted to risk using the 24 Blizzard Strikes several times, but was suppressed by the rationality and logic in her bones. She believed that He Lingling did not know about her congenital weakness. Therefore, there was more than a 70% chance that Yenjika would lose her composure because of her calmness. Perseverance was victory. After another round of wandering and tangling, He Lingling became more anxious. When Yenjika slid behind her, She suddenly exerted force on her feet, and her spine suddenly bounced back. She moved horizontally and bumped into Yenjika, who had just stood firm. Dragon form, flying dragon hits rock. Yenjika had no time to dodge, so she had to put up her arms in front of her to block the collision. A collision followed by a flip. He Lingling's spine undulated like a trembling great spear. Using her body as the shaft, she punched out with her left fist, explosively smashing towards her opponent's shoulder at close range. Dragon form, turning spear. Dragon form is also a spear form. Facing this, Yenjika took a deep breath. Instead of dodging in a hurry, she lowered her waist and sat down, visualizing a mountain peak covered with thousands of years of snow. A meteor fell from the sky and hit the peak, creating a deafening explosion that made hundreds of thousands of tons of snow collapse. Bam! She put her feet inward, turned her waist, and punched upward with her right hand like a hammer. Meteor fall, mega avalanche. Bam! When their fists collided, Lingling's body swayed, while Yenjika seemed to have lost her center of gravity. She stumbled backward, but also avoided the dragon claw that followed closely behind. She took 2 steps back to stabilize her center of gravity, but according to the on-the-spot techniques that Lu Qing taught her during the sparring session, she took 2 more steps back to accumulate her strength. Seeing that her opponent's center of gravity was scattered, Lingling was delighted. She exerted strength in her feet, pounced forward, and stretched out her dragon claw. Just when she thought she was about to succeed, Yenjika suddenly stopped. Her feet were like 2 nails, firmly planted in the ground. She leaned back, then swung forward. Her accumulated strength, meteor fall and mega avalanche burst out together, activating a powerful and direct heart-drilling hammer. Bam! Lingling's dragon claw couldn't hold Yenjika's fist, and was knocked away by her fierce strength. Yenjika used the rebound to whip out her left leg. When Yenjika hurriedly blocked with her leg, she took the opportunity to withdraw her leg, clenched her hands into fists, and hit her opponent's temples. Twin peaks piercing the ear. Lingling put up her arms and barely resisted. She felt that Yenjika was stronger than her. Yenjika didn't show any mercy. She suddenly tightened her right leg and kicked at her opponent. Lingling only had time to wriggle her spine and hurriedly withdraw her leg. Bam! Lingling's right leg was kicked away, and her lower body became unstable. Her hands tried to regain her center of gravity, and her body swayed. Yenjika took half a step forward, shook her right arm, and punched out, stopping at Lingling's neck. The referee raised his right hand and announced loudly, "Yenjika wins." Yenjika's mind went blank, and then she was hit by great joy, losing her usual gentleness and calmness. She turned around abruptly, looked at Lu Qing, and waved her fist. "I won. I'm of amateur second pin." She didn't know why, but when she saw Lu Qing's ecstatic expression and waving his fist more excitedly than her, she suddenly thought of a strange sentence in her heart. "Half of the medal belongs to me, and half to you." Now I finally understand why they use that word to describe boys. "What's that?" Lu Qing asked curiously. Yenjika pretended to gnash his teeth and said, "What a glib tongue." Lu Qing was a little embarrassed because he had misunderstood, but there was no need to talk about that kind of topic in public. He smiled and said, "This is a sincere compliment from the bottom of my heart. Look at my eyes, they are so sincere and magnanimous." Yenjika held back her laughter and tugged at him. All right, I believe you. Don't show off your exaggerated acting skills in front of others. Where are we going now?" Lu Qing knew when to stop and change the topic. Yenjika took out her cell phone from the pocket of her jacket and looked at the time. "Qing should be done soon. Let's wait for her." "Okay." Lu Qing felt relieved after his girlfriend had successfully reached the level of amateur second pin. He finally had the mood to cheer for the other teammates. Guo Qing was quite talented. Her strength was a little stronger than the boys of the same level, and she had a good foundation. Therefore, after practicing the mountain-moving fist, which was a suitable fighting style for her, her progress was very obvious. Among the teams competing for the amateur fourth pin, she could almost be considered as one of the strongest few. She defeated her opponents easily and won the competition with a perfect record. Now she only had to wait for the final battle in the evening. Sister Wen's match is at 4:30. Let's go back to the hotel and have a good rest. I'm exhausted, Guo Qing said casually after meeting up with Lu Cheng and Yenjika. No matter how strong her body was and how much she suppressed her opponent, she was exhausted after fighting 5 matches in 2 days. She only wanted to recover as much as possible. The most important match in the evening. However, this arrangement was fair because her opponent had also fought 5 matches in the group stage. Yenjika had been focused on her own ranking and didn't pay attention to other matches. She only knew that Sun Jian had been eliminated. She asked curiously, "Do you think Sister One and the others have a good chance?" In the match in the morning, they all seemed to have met strong opponents and lost the match. Yes, Ko. Don't you know? There are fewer amateur 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th pin fighters, so there are more places. The top 2 in each group can win. Guo Qing answered. This was the Martial Arts Association's way of encouraging the lower-level fighters, to give more fans the confidence and motivation to pursue the higher amateur ranks. For example, in this year's amateur 4th pin competition, there were 296 participants, and 50 places were given. They were divided into 50 groups, and the top 2 in each group would win. The winner would get the ranking. The ratio was close to 17%. Compared to this, the probability of amateur second pin was less than 10%. Li Xiaowen, Wu Meng and Jiang Fuxing were not talented, but they were hardworking. They insisted on participating in the martial arts training every day, which made them better than most of the fighters who signed up for this competition. Besides, the 24 Blizzard Strikes was not an ordinary fighting style. As long as they were not too unlucky, they could get the certificate of amateur 4th pin after 2 or 3 tries. However, if they wanted to go higher, they would have to participate in martial arts club disciples and martial arts school students, which made it much more difficult. I see. Yenjika's eyebrows relaxed. She was sincerely happy for her senior brothers and sisters. If she was happy, she would want others to be happy too. Li Mao and Lin Hua finished the competition earlier than Yenjika. They were lucky enough to win all the matches in their groups. Back in the hotel, Lu Qing saw Guo Qing go back to her room. He took out the room card and said to Yenjika as usual while opening the door, Go take a shower and get a massage. You can recover early in case there are any hidden injuries." As soon as he finished speaking, a few ideas popped into his mind. Later on, it would be a man and a woman alone in a hotel room with 2 beds. This time, Ko had already won the ranking, so there was no more competition. Thump, thump, thump. He didn't know why his heart suddenly beat faster. He felt his lips were a little dry, as if he was expecting and longing for something. Yenjika's body started to tremble in his slightly heavy breathing. She lowered her head and looked at the carpet beside her. She said in a low voice, "Cheng Cheng, why don't you come to our room?" What? Lu Cheng was stunned at first, but then he understood what she meant. She wanted to have a massage with Guo Qing, so they wouldn't be alone anymore. A wave of disappointment hit him. He turned to look at Yenjika, only to see the girl sneaking a glance at him, and then quickly lowering her eyes like a dodging deer. She was a little shy and a little inexplicably scared. So cute. I'm not ready yet. A thought flashed through Lu Cheng's mind. He exhaled and smiled. Okay, send me a message after you take a shower. Yenjika's dimples blossomed little by little. She looked at Lu Cheng with sparkling eyes and said in a low voice, Cheng, what? Lu Cheng asked blankly. The girl smiled and didn't answer. She turned around gracefully, waved her hand, and walked into her room with light steps. When the door was closed, Lu Cheng's phone beeped with a message. He picked it up and saw Yenjika's blushing smile. You're so nice. Cheng, you're so nice. Lu Cheng connected the 2 sentences together. His disappointment disappeared and his smile reappeared. He was happy and satisfied. Back in his room, he turned on the tap and washed his face with cold water to relieve the throbbing in his head and his tiredness. Thunder Roar Zen on massage would also consume a lot of energy, but he still used the normal massage to recover. After such a long time of physical therapy, he had already reached his limit. Looking at his high-spirited but tired face in the mirror, Lu Qing took a deep breath and made a self-examination. His attitude just now was not right. Maybe it was the influence of the intimacy and stimulation in the past 2 days. After Ku refused to be alone with him, he was so disappointed that it almost showed on his face. Boys have this kind of desire. They always want to go further and be more intimate with the girl they love. There's nothing wrong with that. But they can't show that they only want to do this kind of thing. More importantly, they should respect the girl's idea. Ku was a conservative girl, and it was her first love. They had been dating for only a month at most. At the beginning, because of the sudden confession, she needed to adjust her mood and accept it gradually. It was normal for her to be afraid of this kind of intimacy and want to adapt to it bit by bit. Now that they kissed passionately, it was because of his good performance that she was so kind to him. After silently repeating the word respect many times, Lu Qing received a message from Yan Zhike that he could go now. Thanks to the existence of Guoqing, Lu Cheng's heart was still beating wildly when he massaged the muscles and bruises. But at least he was able to control himself and didn't need to go to the bathroom to calm down. Yan Zhike looked at him with a faint smile and said with concern, "Don't use the tremor force this time. Anyway, Coach sure told us to focus on recovery tomorrow. No need to relieve the tiredness at a deep level." Lu Qing couldn't use it even if he wanted to. He immediately agreed and continued his previous work. His eyes were focused and his hands were skillful. "Are you two trying to irritate me, a single dog, to death?" Guoqing looked for a while and suddenly pressed the pillow to her face. She whined, "I can only wait for Sister Wen to come back so that we can have physical therapy." Yan Zhike snickered. "Then you should find a boyfriend soon." "But old Qiu doesn't like me," Guoqing answered sullenly. Yan Zhike knew that she said something wrong and quickly said, "How about I give you a massage later? Sister Wen will be late when she comes back." "You're not with Cheng?" Guoqing took away the pillow and asked in confusion. Yan Zhike hummed, "We don't have to stick together all the time. Cheng, I just want to borrow your girlfriend for 10 minutes. Guoqing put her hands together and begged pitifully. She also wanted to have a massage early to recover early so that she could face the final battle in a better state. Lu Qing smiled and said, "It's a special situation. I'll reluctantly agree." When it was almost 4 o'clock, the massage was over. Yan Zhike looked at Lu Qing eagerly and whispered in his ear, "I'll come to you after I give Qing a massage." "Okay." Lu Qing smiled sincerely. Back in his room, he washed his face with cold water so that he wouldn't fall asleep due to tiredness and couldn't get up to open the door for the girl. After browsing the forum and Weibo for less than 20 minutes, he heard the expected knock on the door. When he opened the door, he was stunned as if there was a flash of light in front of his eyes. Yan Zhike had changed her clothes. She was wearing a white cotton skirt, a pink jacket, a pair of cute canvas shoes and a pair of skin-tight stockings, which made her legs look long, straight and hazy. Her black hair hung down like satin, and her black and thin eyebrows set off her bright eyes. Her cute nose was straight and delicate, and her pink lips were moist and attractive. Looking at Lu Cheng's stunned and slightly dazed eyes, Yan Zhike looked at herself up and down nervously. "It's a little weird to wear socks like this. I wanted to wear boat socks, but isn't it a little cold? And there are some bruises on my legs that haven't faded yet." While talking, she found the burning gaze in Lu Cheng's eyes and suddenly understood. She looked to the side shyly and hummed in a low voice, "Big pervert." Lu Cheng's face turned red and he looked away with difficulty. He coughed and was about to shamelessly say a few words of praise when Yan Zhike looked at her toes. Her eyes flashed and her face was slightly red. She pretended to be relaxed and said, "Can I ask you out on a date?" She had already planned to take the initiative to propose a date to show her feelings for him in the past 2 days. "Date? Where are we going?" Lu Qing asked in surprise. Yan Zhike held Xiao Xiao in her arms and said proudly, "The ocean aquarium, of course. Didn't you miss it so much?" "Pfft, when did I miss it so much?" Lu Cheng's brain started to work. "It's not even 4:40 if we go there now. The tickets will stop at 5:30 and the aquarium will close at 6. More than an hour is enough for us to walk around. Let's go." Yan Zhike was about to turn around when she saw the tiredness in Lu Cheng's eyes. She immediately felt sorry for him. Chung, you look very tired. I'm okay, Lu Chung said with difficulty. Yenjika thought for a while and said with a faint smile, why don't you take a rest before we go? Just make it before 5 o'clock. Speaking of this, she chuckled. My little massage expert will also help you massage your temples. Lu Chung checked his condition. He was afraid that he would not remember anything about marine life later. He could only smile and say, okay then. He turned sideways to let her into the house. Yenjika had just taken a step when she saw the familiar environment. Thinking of the previous massage, her heart suddenly beat faster. A man and a woman alone again. There's no match tonight. When she saw that he was sleeping peacefully, and without the maturity when he woke up, she nodded with satisfaction. She let her fingers slide down and gently outlined the lines of his face. After a while, her smile became more and more obvious. Her fingers danced and lively, writing a word on each side of Lu Cheng's cheeks. Idiot. 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 Silently repeating it several times, Yenjika smiled like a little fox who had stolen a hen. Her fingers continued to slide down, rubbing her boyfriend's newly grown beard stubble, and brushing his lips. This is the bad guy who always bullies me. The girl stared at his lips and suddenly felt dizzy. She suddenly thought of Lu Cheng's usual sucking and licking of her lips. She thought of his hungry expression as if he was tasting the most delicious food in the world. She thought of his busy figure in the morning and his tired expression when he went out in the morning. Yenjika's eyes unconsciously became tipsy. Looking at the sleeping Lu Cheng, her pink lips slightly opened to make a silent declaration. Sleeping Beauty, I'm your prince. She played with her hair and lowered her head little by little. Her heart was beating fast and her pretty face was turning red inch by inch. Slowly, the girl's pink lips fell on Lu Cheng's mouth. She imitated him and carefully began to rub. After doing all this, she suddenly raised her head and touched her lips. She was a little confused and a little surprised and thought, why is his mouth so sweet? Looking down, Yenjika saw that Lu Cheng's mouth was full of the luster of her lip balm. No wonder the taste is so familiar. She laughed in a low voice. Her eyes were blurred and charming. At this time, the clouds moved and the sun came out. The light shone in through the window and sprinkled on the young boy who was sleeping soundly, and the shy girl who was looking at him. It was bright, quiet, and warm. When Lu Cheng woke up, it was already dark outside. Yenjika was sitting at the table with the lamp lit, bathing in the warm orange light. She was concentrating on the textbooks that she had forgotten to put back in the bag. Her back was slender and graceful. What time is it? Lu Cheng asked blankly. He picked up the phone beside him. His head was still a little swollen and empty. Hearing this, Yenjika turned around. But just as she glanced at him, she suddenly turned back and said with a red face, It's 6:10. 6:10. Lu Cheng's phone showed the same time. There were 2 missed calls from Sun Jian. After more than 10 seconds, he suddenly woke up and blamed himself. I overslept. The girl he loved took the initiative to invite him on a date, and he overslept. Yenjika turned her face and bit her lip. She said with a clear and happy smile, I didn't wake you up on purpose. I thought you were too tired. There will be a lot of chances in the future. Listening to her brisk tone, Lu Cheng was amused and his mood improved. That's right. There will be a lot of chances. He got out of bed and put on his shoes. He planned to wash his face and completely wake up before returning senior brother Sun Jian's call. Yenjika secretly glanced at his lips. When he brushed past her, she hurriedly turned back and looked at the textbooks seriously. Maybe it's time to check out. Their rooms were not due until tomorrow. But later, they would go to the martial arts arena for dinner and cheer for their teammates. After that, they would go back to the old campus together. Lu Cheng had just walked out of the bathroom. Before he could say anything, he heard a knock on the door, followed by Sun Jian's shout. Cheng, are you there? Yes, yes, yes. Lu Cheng hurriedly answered and turned the doorknob. Behind him, Yenjika had just packed up her textbooks and other things. She blushed and blurted out, Don't. Her don't came to an abrupt end. Lu Cheng had opened the door and looked at her in confusion. Sun Jian stood outside the door and said with a smile, "Cheng, are you asleep? You didn't answer my call. It's time to check out. Go directly to the martial arts arena to cheer for them." Okay. Lu Qing turned around and smiled. At this time, Sun Jian's eyes focused and he was stunned for a moment. Then he revealed a teasing smile and said, "Cheng, yes?" Lu Qing responded. Sun Jian patted him on the shoulder and said in a heavy tone, "Remember to wipe your mouth after eating." What? Lu Qing was at a loss. Sun Jian raised his eyebrows and showed an I know expression. He didn't ask more. Humming a pop song, he walked to the elevator. Guo Qing just said that Yin Zhika wasn't in her room. What's going on? Lu Qing was confused and turned to the bathroom. Yin Zhika held her textbooks and lowered her head, showing her dimples. She said quickly, "I'll go back to my room to tidy up." She ran past Lu Qing and out of the room. Strange. Lu Qing shook his head and walked into the bathroom. He subconsciously looked at himself in the mirror. When he saw it, he was stunned. His lips were full of the familiar color of lipstick. How could this be? He came to his senses and took out his phone, feeling both annoyed and amused. He sent a message to Yin Zhika with a shocked emoji. "You female rogue." After sending the message, his face was full of smiles. He carefully tasted the remaining girl's taste on his lips again, and cleaned it up. Peach-flavored. Yin Zhika quickly replied with a pitiful emoji. "It's not my fault. It's all your fault, you big pervert. You want to play dirty even when you're asleep. I was rubbing for you. Then you pressed me down and kissed me in a daze." "Really?" Lu Qing replied with an emoji with a question mark on its head. "I can instinctively kiss Yin Zhika when I'm asleep? This is really a skill." Yin Zhika replied with a righteous face. "It's fake. Humph, if I didn't almost wake you up with a paper wipe, I wouldn't have left any evidence." Lu Qing burst into laughter. He realized that he was really kissed by the girl when he was asleep. He only regretted that he didn't wake up at that time to feel the beauty and seize the opportunity to kiss her back. In the competition at night, Jiang Fuxing met a good opponent and failed in the final test. Guo Qing, Li Xiaowen, and Wu Mengshen passed smoothly and got the certificate of amateur fourth pin. Li Mao was lucky. His opponent in the last test was injured in the previous competition, so he seized the opportunity and defeated him. Therefore, he also became an amateur second pin fighter. Lin Hua, who was usually quiet, passed 6 tests in a row and was determined to be an amateur third pin fighter, which made her boyfriend Sun Jian envious. The next morning, Lu Qing continued to visualize the frozen ground map, memorizing the subtle changes of muscles, fascias, and viscera bit by bit. This was a painstaking effort, so he was not in a hurry. When the martial arts special training began, Gieserscher clapped his hands and said, "You all did well in this ranking event. You didn't disgrace me. Today we'll do recovery training." Speaking of this, he glanced at Lu Qing, Lin Ke, Yin Zhika, and the others and laughed. By the way, Azure Dragon Squad applied for a special competition format. What? Lu Qing and the others were a little confused. Chapter 183. Because they had never encountered a special competition before. Although Lu Qing and the others were aware of the existence of such a thing and knew what the situation was, they couldn't react for a while. After a full 10 seconds, they came back to themselves one after another and blurted out, "Special competition format? What kind of formation does Azure Dragon Squad have? Aren't they a combination of several martial arts clubs? Why didn't they apply for it during the competition with Fearless Squad?" Facing the questions of Sun Jian, Li Mao and the others, Gieserscher answered casually, "According to the information from the organizing committee, Azure Dragon Squad doesn't have a formation." What? Without a formation? Why did they apply for a special competition format? Guo Qing opened her eyes wide. Gieserscher chuckled. "Maybe they want to bully us because our substitutes are weaker." Of course, he wouldn't say that the main reason the opponent was worried was that the 2 main players at the professional level were too strong. They were also worried that Lu Cheng's stamina was so abnormal that they couldn't see the limit of it. Li Mao and the others suddenly became silent. They vaguely understood Azure Dragon Squad's plan. They were frightened by Lu Cheng's tremor punch and stamina. They knew that they had no chance of winning in a normal match, so they decided to use the special competition format. They wanted to send 2 professional 9th pin fighters to deal with Lu Cheng and Lin Ke, and the last one to fight the amateurs. There was such a trick. Sun Jian frowned and said, "Isn't this an insult? Even a professional 9th pin fighter doesn't have 3 heads and 6 arms. How can he have the confidence to deal with 4 amateur fighters?" If everyone punched at the opponent's vital points at the same time, even a professional 9th pin fighter would be flustered. Haven't you heard that ants can bite an elephant to death? Although Sun Jian was the main fighter in name, he consciously put himself in the ranks of the substitutes. The others also didn't feel anything wrong. In their eyes, the real main fighters of the martial arts club were only Lin Ke and Lu Cheng. Do you think others are wooden blocks that will just stand there and let you besiege them? Gezershur sneered. Yen Zhika habitually raised her hand and said, "But the challenge tournament is different from real combat. The space is limited. It's hard to create a temporary one-on-one or one-on-two situation with physical strength." She once saw a video of a professional fighter being chased by 7 or 8 amateur fighters. The former seemed to be running away crazily, but in fact, he was paying attention to the situation behind him. The fighters behind him didn't give up because they had more people. As time went by, they were divided into several small groups because of physical strength and speed. The distance between them was widened to an extent that they couldn't ignore. As a result, the professional 9th pin fighter fought back. He suddenly paused and pounced backward. Before the second small group could catch up with him, he used all his strength to kill one of the 2 enemies in the front and cripple the other. After this process was repeated, the thugs no longer dared to blindly chase after him. They always maintained a good distance. However, in this way, they had no choice but to use the slowest speed as the standard. They could only watch the enemy leisurely walk away. This was the actual combat strategy of a professional 9th pin fighter when he was besieged. But it was almost impossible to use it in the challenge tournament. Yenjika's question was also Lu Cheng's idea. Although he was now a top professional 9th pin fighter, if he was besieged by more than 3 strong amateur fighters, he could only choose to run and fight. He didn't have the field control skills, like the 9th pin of the Dark Sect. He could use the advantage of his physical strength to create short one-on-one opportunities. In the challenge tournament, he might reach the edge after running for more than 10 steps. Gezershur laughed and said, "The specific situation needs to be analyzed. First, some martial arts are better at dealing with besieges, such as Golden Bell Shield and Lion's Roar. Second, there is more than one battlefield in the challenge tournament. The opponent can use the other 2 places as obstacles to create distance. When Lin Ke and Lu Cheng are fighting with the professional 9th pin fighter, will you be more cautious when approaching? Will you be worried about being hurt? The opponent is a professional 9th pin fighter, so he will have fewer concerns in this respect. With the difference, he will have the opportunity to take advantage of the temporary chaos. And if you are slower, he will have the time and ability to besiege Lu Cheng or Lin Ke. So, although they may not be able to gain the upper hand, at least they have the possibility of winning." After listening to the coach's general explanation, Lu Cheng and the others thoroughly understood the thoughts of the Azure Dragon squad. They knew that they were not whimsical, but intended to rely on the advantage of average strength to seek victory in the chaos. Understanding was one thing, but Li Mao and Lin Hua were still a little indignant. They felt that they were despised and looked down upon. Even Yen Zhika, who was always good-tempered, slightly pouted her mouth. "I don't know if I can master the Frost Force by Sunday." Lu Cheng looked at his girlfriend and thought to himself, this was not an impossible task. As long as he could memorize and master the subtle changes in his body when he visualized the frozen ground map before Friday, it would not be too difficult for him to master the frozen river map that he had been comprehending every day for the remaining 2 days. While thinking, he could not help but look at Lin Quebec. He wanted to know what level his brother-in-law was at after he recovered from his injury. Compared to the past, Lin Ke's vigorous qi and blood had weakened a lot. There was a sense of peace in his silence and coldness. Obviously, he had touched the threshold of the Dan stage. But it was hard to say how much he had gained. At this time, Gieserscher clapped his hands and said, "Those who participated in the ranking event should do recovery training. The rest of you should do the same. We'll go back and discuss the Azure Dragon squad later. The information has been sent to your mailbox. Don't look for videos with special competition rules. It's useless. Look for videos of amateur fighters besieging professional 9th pin fighters. It's better to look for those with obstacles. Summarize the experience and lessons." This morning, after Lu Cheng completed the fixed daily training, he spent more time on memorizing and mastering the corresponding changes in his body. He felt that he had made a lot of progress. After a sweet and busy day, he went back to the dormitory. After washing up, he turned on the computer and logged into QQ. He sent a message to Yenjika. "Ko, have you finished reading the information?" As their relationship grew deeper day by day, they became more intimate. He called Yenjika more and more in a variety of ways. But as the first nickname, Coach Yen had a special meaning. As for the information about the Azure Dragon squad, he finished reading it in the afternoon class. But Yenjika was in a professional class, so she had to listen carefully. She could only take a look at it. The girl immediately replied to the cat that threw the salted fish in her hand. "Call me Coach Yen." Yes. "Have you finished reading the information, Coach Yen?" Lu Cheng snickered. Yenjika only had 2 short classes in the evening. She went back to the dormitory with Zhong Yenru at around 8 o'clock to study the information and videos seriously. Unlike the usual self-study, she waited for Lu Cheng to finish class and took a walk. This showed that she attached great importance to the weekend competition. After all, no matter what the arrangement was, she would be able to play. "Finished reading?" Yenjika replied with a blank expression. "It's just like what Coach Sher said. Mo Zitsong's ancestor was a disciple of Daxing Temple. He passed down a martial art similar to Lion's Roar. Zhu Tao has been practicing Iron Shirt since he was young. His hard body skills are quite famous in Songcheng. They were all professional 9th pin fighters who were good at dealing with sieges. Don't worry. When the time comes, your brother and I will hold Mo Zitsong and Zhu Tao back. During the competition, they can't do whatever they want." Lu Cheng replied. Among the 4 fighters in the Azure Dragon squad, Mo Zitsong was the strongest. Not only was he born with great strength, but he also practiced throwing elephant skill. Without Thunder Roar Zen, Lu Cheng felt that he could only beat him 4 to 6 times. As for the other 3, Zhu Tao had the Iron Mantle hard kung fu, and his punches and kicks were straightforward, which made him difficult to deal with. Deng Hua was famous for his tiger roaring iron fist. As for Su Zheng, he was relatively weak, but his foundation in 8 trigrams palm was very solid. Yenjika replied with an emoji of bright eyes. "Humph, when was I worried? I have already summarized several experiences of sieges." Lu Cheng replied with an emoji of a naughty smile. "Coach Yen, please give me some advice." Beg me, and I will tell you." Yenjika replied with a smiley emoji of covering mouth. Men and women didn't care much about face when they were flirting. Lu Cheng immediately begged with an emoji of prostrating himself on the ground. Yenjika replied with a thoughtful emoji of crossing her hands under her chin. First, always keep a good distance from each other. Second, don't attack at the same time. It's best to have a gap of 1 second, in case the opponent throws out all his martial arts. Third, don't rush. As long as you and my brother have enough time, you can definitely defeat your opponents. They should be the ones who are anxious. Lu Cheng praised Coach Yen as he read, and then helped her to perfect the details through discussion and analysis. At this time, there was a new post in his fan forum from Lush Natural Generating Light: Sunday afternoon at 3:30 p.m. Songcheng TV station will broadcast the key battle of the 3rd group, Songcheng University Martial Arts Club vs Azure Dragon Squad, special competition format. And in the campus forum of Songcheng University, the administrator also put a message at the top of each subsection. Sunday afternoon at 3:30 p.m., Martial Arts Club will fight Azure Dragon Squad at home, key battle of the qualifying round. This time, the TV station and the school's publicity department finally started to promote. In the blink of an eye, under the eager anticipation of Yen Xiaoling and the others, it was the afternoon of the weekend. A few hundred kilometers away, In the office of Shanbei University Martial Arts Club, Su Wanyan saw junior brother Peng, who was always in a daze, sitting there and looking at the computer leisurely. Junior brother Peng, you didn't go out to play? He asked in surprise. Peng Liyun smiled and said, I was watching a preliminaries. What's there to watch? We are going to Huahai for the national finals next week. Su Wanyan was puzzled. At this critical time, as the pillar of the martial arts club, how could junior brother Peng have the leisure to watch a preliminaries? Peng Liyun laughed in a low voice. This could be one of the tough ones in the next round. The taste of the starry sky was unforgettable, so he had always been paying attention to it. Thinking about it, he fell into his daily daze. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.